DBT, blah, 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 blah. The spending of the presidency, which supports officers of the president and his deputies, stood at 10.78 billion against a target of 5.77 billion. Okay? According to the latest expenditure disclosure by Treasury, the Treasury did not and I turn the page.
Cuss.
See, you guys understand these things, okay? Disclose the reasons behind the budget burst that happened in the quarter that ended 2 weeks before Dr. Ruto was sworn in as Kenya's 5th president. Let me repeat this. The quarter that ended 2 weeks before Dr. Ruto was sworn in as Kenya, 2 weeks before. Okay. The spending spree in the presidency also came in a period when Dr. Ruto and Mr. Kenyatta sought to outdo each other at the August 9th presidential elections. Although Dr. Ruto was the incumbent deputy president, Mr. Kenyatta threw his weight behind opposition. We know this one. The recurrent budget for the office includes operations and maintenance more than doubled. And whatever they were expending money on, including operations, didn't double, but the cost doubled.
Maintenance doubled.
Maintenance doubled.
You have to change the curtains, change the stuff.
Operations doubled. So
maintenance.
What? Maintenance. Okay.
Remember, those two houses needed to be souped up for the new occupants. Each had a new occupant.
No, you do have a point. And it includes crockery.
Yeah.
Okay. Vehicles?
Even Gena had broken a plate.
Because
you think June is going to come and eat from a broken plate? Eat from a broken plate.
No, she won't. But because also you
have to replace it.
Yeah.
These amounts are rather huge. Okay, fine.
Okay.
Right. The cost of running government includes salaries, operations, and maintenance costs. How vague? Overshot targets of 57.03 billion to 57.3 billion to 573.29 billion. Hey,
wow.
The overexpenditure in recurrent category was mainly due to higher than targeted expenditures in operations and maintenance. This operations and maintenance keeps coming up in this conversation.
It's operations and maintenance.
Okay. The Treasury wrote in the Provisional Expenditure and Budget Review Report for the first quarter of the current year. Okay, fine. That's enough.
It sounds like that. Huh?
It's enough. It's enough. Okay.
Does this factor in the supplementary budget, which increased the budget to the presidency by how much are we talking about? Like 3 billion shillings. Remember?
It was 2 point something. Yeah, almost 3 billion.
Yes.
It
does. It does. But it also talks about the Treasury has revoked Article 223 of the Constitution. I'm quoting someone who was explaining this, that allows them to spend money without approval of Parliament.
Or invoked. Invoked,
not revoked, invoked. Yes. They have approved the withdrawal. This.
They've approved the withdrawal
of, just wait for it, the amount, 45.6 billion, of which 23 billion has been paid out.
No wonder they found 83 bob.
That's after they did all this withdrawing and revoking and invoking and approving.
That
was the
I
balance.
was reading, when you read 45, you're thinking it's 45,000. And then you say, then million. Then it turns out to be billion.
Billions. That's a lot of money. Keep it here for more conversations coming up in the next hour. Remember, you get to www.standardmedia.co.ke, and for only 199 shillings, save 100 bob, and you get access to premium content. It's called the Standard what? Insider. The Standard Insider. In the next hour, we want to have a conversation about the expressway plus all the roads that join into the expressway, from Mulolongo to Rironi and beyond, and very many other places. Citizens have been complaining, especially pedestrians, and we want to hear those complaints because the Kenya National Highways Authority says that by the end of December, these things will be sorted. Good morning, 7 a.m.
spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire. Dennis Aseto. President William Ruto says that East African troops will enforce peace in eastern DRC Congo, which is in the grip of an offensive by the M23 armed groups. Kenya troops deployed as part of an East Africa Community force recently arrived in the volatile region. Ruto said during a news conference in DRC that Kenya will stick to the written agreements between the two nations.
To my brother and to the people of DRC, that Kenya will play its role. We are rolling out the deployment of our troops in the areas that have been agreed between the government of DRC and the East Africa region. That process is ongoing. Kenya is committed, and we will make sure that we discharge our responsibility and mandate in accordance with the agreement under the East Africa Regional Force.
From DRC, Ruto proceeded to South Korea for a 3-day working visit where he is expected to hold bilateral talks with the country's leader. Now, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has criticized Azimio leader Raila Odinga, saying that President William Ruto's administration has no time to consider Raila's advice. Speaking in Lagdera, Garissa County, Gachagua criticized Odinga's statement, accusing Ruto of allegedly being a puppet of Western countries.
They have no moral authority to advise on what we need to do to get out of the crisis we are in. When they were given an opportunity to advise government, we went into a 10 trillion public debt. When they were given an opportunity to advise government turned against its very people by touching their goods and killing businesses. If President William Ruto was to get advice from that corner, this country will be in further trouble. So I want to ask them to leave the president alone. The West is supporting us and we are happy. And that engagement with the West will continue. We'll engage the East and we'll engage anybody who means well for this country to protect our national interests and for the benefit of our people. I know they are unhappy that the president has met our development partners 3 times since he was sworn in. But there is nothing that can go wrong by engaging continuously.
Meanwhile, Raila Odinga defended himself against allegations of being a double agent on matters GMO after it emerged that he had supported the consumption of the same in the country years back. Through his spokesperson Dennis Onyango, Raila said that he supported GMO as Prime Minister due to the research that had been done at that time. However, he said that there is now more evidence that raises fears about the use of GMO foods even from developed countries that have stopped using them. Despite this, Odinga mentioned that he is ready to be persuaded about the consumption of food through research which will be done in Kenya. This is what Raila said as Prime Minister years back.
Embrace science, and to know, Mr. Speaker, that science is moving on. Mr. Speaker, conservatism, Mr. Speaker, will kill innovation. Mr. Speaker, these countries I've mentioned here are fairly civilized, advanced countries.
It should be noted that several developed countries have various measures to ban the cultivation or use of GMOs. They include Germany, France, Holland, Italy, Croatia, Luxembourg, Poland, Slovenia, among others. Now, Trade CS Moses Couriers continue to receive criticism following his statement that the government is planning to import 10 million sacks of GMO maize. Mumias East MP Peter Salasia has demanded that GMO maize not be imported and given only to livestock and not humans, saying that it is not safe for human consumption.
Nataka kuungana na Wakenya kupinga ile mambo ya mahindi ya GMO ambayo inawataka ati kuagizwa ati kuje Kenya, kwa sababu GMO health wise it's not recommended, and right now the health system in Kenya has failed. GMO, if they were to be imported, let those GMOs be for animal feeds but not for the human consumption, and more so to the Kenyans.
Nyeri Archbishop Anthony Muheria also added his voice on the GMO debate.
The Kenyans deserve respect and not spite, and in this matter they do deserve an apology. It is not good to joke with death or to gamble with the life of Kenyans as if it was Russian roulette. For this reason, we feel this matter is more than just a joke when we speak about GMOs. It's a serious matter that deserves discussion, deep, sober engagement.
Now, a man suspected to have killed his girlfriend in Langata after a short disagreement has been detained for 14 days pending investigations. Thomas Mbugwa was detained after his lawyer told the court that they were not opposing the affidavit that a detective filed in court that sought orders to detain him. Inspector Nicholas Langat told the court that the accused person was a flight risk and is suspected to have killed Naneu Mudhoni at Onyonke Estate. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Asata. Good morning.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
Kiambu Road is not for the weak at heart or the lily-livered. Not this morning, at least. Quite some traffic on Kiambu Road. You're going to touch on Muthaiga Square in, T-minus 3 hours or so. That's what it looks like, at least for now. It's heavy traffic on Kiambu Road. And moving slowly, it's probably going to clog up in a very short while. So if you're not on Kiambu Road yet and you intend on going there, I'm just telling you what lies ahead. It's going to be a busy morning. Let's look at what's coming off of the southern bypass. A little bit of traffic then seeping onto Likoni Road at the interchange there, and then going towards the southern bypass just off Mombasa Road, but you should be okay. Jogger Road is tight. We're getting through to Landys Road and a connect there with what's coming off of Juja Road, that whole area into the city. Pretty busy traffic as you get through to the CBD. It's not too bad coming off Mombasa Road. We're also looking at a little bit of traffic that's coming off of Outer Ring. The Eastern Bypass also looks pretty busy right about now. And we're seeing a build-up of traffic on Langata Road. Just if you're heading in that direction, might want to whiz out as quickly as possible before you get stuck in what's likely to come around 8 o'clock. So it looks like a busy Tuesday, a beehive of activity on the roads. Be careful because we're seeing isolated thunderstorms in the forecast. Talk to us through the morning on SpiceFM, KE on Twitter.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room,
my friend,
the only way to start your day.
Hey, weh. It's the 22nd day of November 2022. Weh.
22-11-22. 221122.
Yeah, way back there. 221122. Sawa basi. It's a good date. What do they call that?
What do they call what?
Those kind of dates.
Which do what?
That do like that.
See, there are days that do like that.
The days that do like that.
Yes.
That's what they're just called.
Yeah.
Days that do like that.
Why not? What are you trying to say?
Okay.
That.
Okay, I see. Like there are words that are the same from the beginning and going towards the end.
Yeah. They're the same frontwards and backwards. 221122.
A palindrome.
Yes, finally you've landed. Welcome.
Thank you.
Time was required for the system to do an advanced Google search.
Yes.
And to the point where you say,
So it's a palindrome. Yeah. 221122. City Muga.
yes,
Uh-huh.
old ways and old friends ought not to be disbanded.
Please repeat, Eric.
Old ways and old men.
Okay.
Okay, never mind. Don't worry. Just leave it. We're okay. It's okay. So,
Today's proverb is from Western Sahara.
Yes. Old ways and old men.
even you. It's friends.
I know, but give me a little twist. Doesn't harm anyone. Ought not to be disbanded.
Keep them together.
Keep them together.
Let them go their own merry own way. Keep them together. That's the point. Make sure that everybody understands where they're coming from.
Yes.
Sawa basi. Sawa basi. As we count down to the launch of the Hustler Fund,
Oh, Lord.
these people better not play with us.
Where?
We are keeping track. 30th of November, the government has announced that they are launching the Hustler what?
Fund.
The Hustler Fund. And they'll tell us how you can access that Hustler Fund and where the money goes into the Hustler Fund, how you can take that money. The one thing that I noticed that they said is the Hustler Fund, you can access it via what? Mobile phone. Especially the personal loan.
USSD code kind of thing, blah, blah, blah.
Just like M-Pesa. Just go to Safaricom, Telcom, Airtel, apply, get your money, and do whatever you want to do. And the thing about it is that then it's accessible across the country. You know, when you talk about those things being accessible across the country, we take several things for granted about the fact that people can actually conduct financial transactions on a mobile phone. And mobile phones are accessible everywhere in Kenya in this day and age. Just a couple of short years ago, this was completely unheard of. In fact, financial literacy...
You had to go into the bank.
You had to go into the bank, fill up a form, withdraw money, and then walk out and carry that money. And if you don't understand that whole sequence of walking into a bank, filling out money... I told you the story of this guy in Loitoktok who took money to the bank and came back asking for the money. Remember that story?
Yes,
he wanted to see his money.
Yeah,
He wanted to see his money.
They have kept it.
I want to see it.
Let me tell you the story again. So in Loitoktok in the 80s and up to somewhere in the 90s, there was only one bank, Kenya Commercial Bank. You know, those days it was on KCB. So Kenya Commercial Bank, the only bank in Loitoktok town. So our friend, let's call him Lengete for this particular conversation.
Okay, that's easy.
Lengete.
Okay.
Lengete is from this village where there's a chief. Chief is the rich don of the village, of course. Chief has worked at the Olkejuado County Council. He had a bank account. He's now come back. He's the local chief. And periodically, when he goes to Loitoktok to meet with the DO, he goes to the bank, withdraws money, comes back to the village with cash. And that's when now he pays the people who've worked for him. And then he also buys, dawa ya ng'ombe nanunua hapo kwa na pesa umetoa kwa bank na leta nakuja nanunua dawa ya ng'ombe and all those things. Now, our friend Lengete was also a cattle trader. So he would observe and see this man gets into his Land Rover, goes and comes back with cash and says he's come back from the bank with cash. Even now I want to get to that level. So Lengete goes to sell cattle in Loitoktok. And he sells, cows with his buddies. He makes money. He decides, I am going to take this money to the bank. Brother walks to KCB, Kenya Commercial Bank then. Finds the teller. Nataka weka pesa. Teller's like, karibu sana. Uko na pesa ngapi? Hika, hesabu. Moves the word of cash. Teller counts, of course, several tens of thousands. Ni yote. Hiyo yote, weka. So he's told, uko na account? Abana, menalete pesa. So the teller, of course, tells him now we need to open an account. So gives him the form, takes him through. Jina yako ni nani? Lengete ole Saruni. Andika jina Lengete ole Saruni. Lesaliwa lini. Nasema. Does the fingerprint thing, account open. Lete pesa. Uko na ingine umebakisha yako? Niko na ingine imeweka hapa ya kukula. Weka hiyo pesa. Keeps the money, the teller. Lengete walks out of the bank. Lengete goes and meets with his pals. They had weka nyama. Weka nyama, sisi nakuja wanakula. Tukiusa ng'ombe. They go, they sit down, and they're now having their nyama. Kula nyama, kunywa supu. Kula nyama, kunywa supu. Mamalesa hiyo. Lete bia. Kunywa bia. Lengete na rafiki nafanya nini na kunywa bia. Take beer, get to a certain level. Lengete decides, let me unleash my newfound status to my pals.
Banked.
You guys are walking around with cash like this, hiding. What is the problem with you people? My money's in the bank. Me, I'm like Chief so-and-so.
I'm bank.
Money is in the bank, man. I'm not like you guys. You guys are like, ati pesa iko wapi? Kwa bank. Ebu toa pesa yako, everybody removes their money. Pa. Lengete wapi pesa yako? Pesa yako kwa bank. Unajua bank inafungwa. I don't know whether you actually have thought through this thing. Eh? You know, bank closes. If you come tomorrow and you find the bank has closed and you want your money, will you be able to? Unakuja kununua dawa ya ng'ombe. Bank nafunga. Tatoa wapi pesa? They inside the guy. You know, now all of them are like this. Pick up beer kasa. The guy says, no, let me show you. Bank does not close. So we go and show you my money where I left it. Chomoka. Anaenda kwa Kenya Commercial Bank. Anaingia bank. We, leta ile pesa mimi naleta hapa. Pesa gani mse? Ile pesa mimi naleta hapa. Hiyo pesa unajua iko kwa banki kwa sawa. Sasa mleta basi. Iko sawa, iko hapa, iko kwa bank, pesa iko safe. Si leta basi. Sasa unataka kutoa? Kama unataka kutoa, sasa utajaza hii karatasi. Guy chombozi, you know they walk around with a sword. Chombozi. Karatasi kitu gani? Leta pesa. Napatia mimi karatasi, mimi nataka pesa. Napatia karatasi. Leta pesa. The other guys see, our brother is being conned that he's being given paper.
Yeah.
Instead of money, they also do the same.
They remove the things.
Mo partia lengete pesa yake. Partia lengete pesa yake, hapana kula pesa yake. We, kizaza, my friends. Palitokea panda shuka pale kwenye benki. Kizaza. Hali ya mshike. Hali ya sintofahamu. They are walking in and out of the bank with their knees like this. Nataka kuiba pesa ya lengete. It took the intervention of the OCS from the nearby Loitoktok police station to come. Get out of here. Shida iko wapi? Nataka kula pesa ya lengete. Naiba pesa ya lengete. What is the problem? Mimi naleta pesa hapa. Nakuja nachukua pesa yangu, anapatia mimi karatasi. Sio pesa karatasi. OCS had to call the bank manager and tell him, boss, you have the money. Give the man the money. Give him the money. Okay. His story to Malize. So this whole issue of now, if you go, you'll find Lengete's children with a mobile phone and they can send money, receive money, transact.
Reality
we
far
take
removed.
things for granted. This is a true story, by the way, I'm telling you. Just don't remember the year. But yes, take things for granted. It's not for granted. No.
You know, I lived in that era that you're speaking of, where there was, in my own small little shopping center called Moroni, which was a township, I think people refer to it as a town now. It was a mobile KCB bank, and it came 3 times a week. Now there's a permanent one. But in those days it was mobile. Now imagine if you put your money there and you go to where the mobile bank is normally nestled, and that's the day they haven't come.
And you look,
you say, wait,
my bank was here.
Yeah, where have these guys
Where's the bank gone?
Where have these guys gone with my money?
My bank was here.
But even more interesting, if you just use logic and think of a phone carrying money, when you know money is a fiduciary issue, it's paper-based. Can you imagine how confusing that is?
Quite.
And yet, the concept of M-Pesa, as we know it, has been accepted.
Completely.
Here in this country. By the way, I have friends and colleagues who come from other parts of the world. This M-Pesa thing is, even as I'm talking to you right now, it doesn't quite sink. That you are actually sending money and you're withdrawing it from the bank. I said you can, but you don't need to. You can actually go to a dealer, give them cash and the money. How? Transformation, my friend.
Yeah,
Complete.
quite.
Yes.
Complete. Let's not beat ourselves too much. We've actually come, and we're going very, very far. Now, the other day, the National Highways Authority released a statement, and this was on the reinstatement of Mombasa Road. And this is what they said. The project company and developer of the Nairobi Expressway, Moja Expressway Company Limited, through their engineer, procure and construct contractor, Kale Infrastructure Construction Company, is progressively working to repair sections of the prior existing Mombasa Road, where damage was directly caused during the construction of the Nairobi Expressway. Please note the words damage directly caused. Okay? Underline those. Shall I move on? These repair works under the responsibility of Moja will be completed before the end of this year, 2022. However, there are damages to the existing road and road reserve at various locations that are caused by relocation works, including water and sewer pipes relocation, power lines relocation, and ICT fiber cables relocation works, which were carried out by the respective government utility companies that are being attended to by Ednah and the respective utility companies. Do you notice those? One, there is Moja Expressway and the engineer who are dealing with the section that was damage directly caused during the construction. And then there is part B of damage caused by relocation works. That is not directly caused during the relocation, during construction. Please bear that in mind.
It's not taken into consideration.
No.
Okay.
Shall we continue? These relocation activities affected the sidewalks and pedestrian footpaths as well as roadside drainage on the existing road. Ednah has committed funds to these repair works and they continue to coordinate with the government utility companies to ensure they effectively attend to their assigned repair works. The authority is further committed to improving on the safety of pedestrians and has planned a phased construction of additional 5 pedestrian footbridges between Mlolongo and Airtel Southern Bypass Interchange and along the Westland section between Aga Khan School and the junction to Brookside Drive. Pedestrian footpaths are also included in the scope of works to be undertaken. Statement has ended. Ndu, translate that statement.
It's not our fault that the road is in the state that it is in, and those who have actually caused this damage have said they're going to fix it. We have also made sure that the things you've complained about in terms of bus stops and footbridges, that we have erected a number of them along the said highway and that everything is okay.
That's bunk.
We shall erect 5 additional footbridges.
Yeah.
And the pedestrian walkways are going to be repaired.
Yeah.
And the utility companies that then caused these damages are coming to repair them.
When was this statement issued?
Day before yesterday.
Precisely. A similar statement was issued earlier. When we first started talking about this, when the story of the 9 billion came up, it was with a view to ensuring that these very same things that we're now talking about again were rectified and were told. So this isn't a new story, and these promises are not new either.
When I was in grade school, we used to go on like a field trip every semester for you to understand the processes in practicality of the things that we're being taught in theory.
You guys didn't go for nature walks?
We did that too.
Okay.
Now, in order for you to understand what is really going on Mombasa Road, a field trip is necessary. Take a trip in a matatu. Okay. Get on a...
Matatu is good.
Get on a...
Nduthi.
Thank you very much. From Haile Selassie at the junction there, at the roundabout, and just do a thing until Mlolongo.
Yes.
Okay? Then you will understand what it is that we are talking about. This statement, dressed in hoity-toity, is very nice. However, it does not capture the situation of what is really going on Mombasa Road. We saw this damage when the expressway was being built, before it had even reached the stage of completion,
and we spoke
where
about
we'll be able to use it. And we asked the question, what is going to happen? At that time where there was just total disaster and there were those 36-hour-long traffic jams, we were asking the question, we can see the potential damage that is happening now. Are they going to make sure that upon completion of this road, the amenities that were necessary for road usage were going to be sorted out? Bicycle paths, sidewalks for people to walk on, bus stops, will these then be put back? We asked the question, everything is gonna be all right.
It's in the plan.
Like a James Marley, like a Bob Marley song on repeat. That is what it sounded like. Now here we are. Upper Road has been completed. People who still have to use what is now being called barabara ya chini are the ones who are bearing the brunt of this. Just take a spot check from Haile Selassie at the junction. You now have 4 bus stops between Haile Selassie and Mlolongo. 4.
Where are they?
So now you have, it's not really a bus stop, it's just a makeshift one. There's at the Shell petrol station just at the mouth of, just after Nyayo Stadium.
That isn't a bus stop.
Before Haile Selassie and Kaburini, that's what it's called, Abi.
Kaburini.
There's
That's
nothing.
The Bunyala roundabout.
There's nothing. So if you're walking, you're done.
Right.
If you need to get on a vehicle, there's no way for you to stop. That's why I started at that
Between
Nyayo Stadium.
Bunyala and Nyayo Stadium
So,
itself.
Between Bunyala and Nyeri, there's just that Shell petrol station. It's a makeshift. It's not really a bus stop.
That thing
Okay.
is not a bus stop.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's a makeshift kind of thing.
It's called
So
an
this is where
acceleration.
matatus decide to.
They stop and then they even
It's
some
an
that line up
acceleration lane,
along the
an
side of
opportunity for you to
Yeah.
join the main road.
They
Yeah.
stop
It's not a
along the
bus
side
stop.
of the road.
Yes.
All right? Now, as you proceed from there is the bridge that was on Mombasa Road that connects South B to South C.
The Kidero Bridge.
There. There is some
the old bridge.
the old bridge
The
upon
overpass.
which the overpass
Okay.
upon which now the expressway connected. All right, there's another house there. I can't remember what it's called, but there's also another makeshift bus stop there before you approach.
Before now you get to the Capital Center
Okay.
entry to the expressway.
Yes. Now remember, at Capital Center there used to be an official bus stop. There used to be one where matatus would whatever. It doesn't exist anymore. That was removed. It's gone. After that, you get to the South B Bridge. All right, it takes you into South B. There's that bridge there. There's a bus stop there. After that, there used to be another one which was now opposite. I did the field trip, so I know what I'm telling you. After that, there was opposite.
Bellevue.
Bellevue. That's the Bellevue one. Thereafter, there's St. James Next Gen. Opposite, there was another. Now we're doing inbound.
Where St. James
We're
Hospital
doing
was.
outbound, yes, okay? But opposite. Now we're doing outbound before we even go to inbound.
Okay.
All right? So you come and there was one there, but it wasn't really a bus stop. There was an interchange as you go up towards Winners Chapel as you progress
So
now
it is
towards
not really a
Mombasa
bus
Road.
stop.
So there was just a place where
Near the southern bypass.
Exactly. It was just a place where matatus stop, get off, get on, whatever. Then thereafter, there was the one at Airtel, okay? At that petrol station, which now does not exist. Okay? Now, after that, there was Panari. And after that, there was General Motors, which still exists. But if you're on this side going to town, for example, and then there was a pedestrian crossing from here where we are across the road. That doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
So if you are here where we are and you're trying to get to town using public transport, you will walk to General Motors and then you will cross over. And even that doesn't exist anymore. There was a maybe certified bus stop there. But with this design flaw of this General Motors place, whatever is happening here, you're not able to turn properly. So when you turn, you in a private vehicle, if you turn, you find yourself in what used to be bus
Into
stop.
the bus stop.
Okay?
What used to be?
What used to be the bus stop.
You know, it doesn't actually exist anymore.
No. So let's keep going. General Motors bus stop, there is certified one there.
Go up the bridge, go down.
Yeah.
Imaradaima.
In Maradaima, you're at the mall. And at the petrol station, at that mall, new mall there's something where vehicles stop. From there...
Not a designated bus stop.
No, it's not
No,
a
no.
designated bus stop.
It's
It's
the
just
vehicles.
another thing like that.
Right.
All right? After that is what used to be the Cabanas bus stop. But it's still moving because it's not designated anymore. Your 3 lanes are there. There's no bus stop except now at what used to be the Tuskies go down. All right? So there's that bus stop that is there. From there, the next designated bus stop from Cabanas is
Mall.
Katani. No, it's not a bus stop anymore. It's been removed. It's just road. At the mall, at Gateway Mall, it doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. It's finished. The next one is at Katani, and it's not even Katani. It is a thing again. After that, your next one is in Mlolongo. How many official bus stops are there?
How many footbridges have we counted from there?
So from Mlolongo, are we going now back into the city?
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. So there was one that was half a bus stop, half a footbridge, and then everybody made noise. Then they came back and said, "Oh, we forgot."
And they extended
Then
it to
they
the other
finished it.
side?
Yeah. Then there was the one here that was done at Imaradaima, and that was completed, and then Cabanas. So those 3, if we're talking about between here and there. But and then the other one after that is, of course, the South B at Bellevue, and then the other one at the junction of the Nyayo Stadium roundabout. So, how are people supposed to use this road if they are in pedestrian status or if they are going to have to use public transport?
What are the responsibilities of the contractor at the initial stage? I think those are the main questions. Because since then what we've seen is in May last year, and I'm going to read a story that's in the Standard, Expressway opens as 9 billion shillings set aside to reclaim the defaced Mombasa Road. The state will spend 9 billion shillings in refurbishing the Mombasa Road, even as it opened up the Nairobi Expressway to public use. The Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure said it will, in the coming days, sign a contract with the China Road and Bridge Corporation to repair sections of the old roads, Mombasa Road, Uhuru Highway and Wayaki Way, that had been damaged during the construction of the 27-kilometre road. Transport CS then, James Macharia, said the 9 billion shillings would be investment for additional features on the old roads, including a BRT system, as well as lanes for cyclists and pedestrians. He spoke when he opened the road to the public for a 3 to 4 week trial period before it's officially commissioned. And this is what he said then. We are going to enhance the old road all the way from Lolongo to Westlands to make sure that motorists who do not use the expressway also have a more dignified road. This is quoted verbatim from the former CS for Transport, James Macharia. He continued, the formal contract will be signed in a week or so, but rehabilitation has started. We shall be doing drainage systems, lighting and recarpeting the old road to ensure that all of us, whether driving up there or down there, have enhanced comfort on this particular corridor. Okay? That is what he said then. He said the other expenditure will be to enhance the old road. We will be putting up a BRT system that's an addition to what was there before. We'll also be doing cycling lanes, pedestrian walkways. These are additional investments which the government will bear. The road has been built by CRBC under the public-private partnership model. This was in May. Where he said that the contract was going to be signed in just a few days' time. Now, it is not in public domain that this contract was actually signed, as promised. Okay? This was a minister saying, in the next week or so, we are signing a contract with the China Road and Bridge Corporation so that they can repair this road and also put in additional features. That contract was not signed. The rehabilitation of that road did not begin. Come June, come a couple of weeks later, and the president commissions the road. And the president still talks about, and this is President Uhuru Kenyatta, he still talks about rehabilitation of the old Mombasa Road. Now this statement that I've just read from Kenha is still talking about rehabilitation of this old Mombasa Road, and it is now a different story. Moja Expressway, notice, China Road has not been mentioned anywhere.
Nope.
Because they were not given a contract. Moja Expressway, that's now in charge of managing the expressway and taking the toll and making the money, is saying that through their engineer, they are going to, in the areas which were directly affected by the construction of the road, they are going to repair. The others which were not directly affected by construction of the road, which include demolishing of walkways, demolishing of, I don't know, this and the other.
How is that not a direct impact of construction?
They're not direct. No, it's not direct. You see, if we didn't have to build the road for you to, I don't know. And that's why I told you, please explain to me. Because I don't understand what part of Mombasa Road was not
affected as direct impact of the construction
of the expressway.
Do we have to start
all these
list?
relocations, the ICT cable relocation, the power lines cable relocation, the sewer and water pipes cable relocation was as a result of
the construction
of the expressway.
So they actually, look, the truth of the matter, and let's put it very plainly here, there is nothing that has become an inconvenience of this road that is not of direct impact from the construction of the expressway. Nothing. This thing that we're talking about, no bus stops, no pedestrian walk, no zebra crossings anymore. We're talking about the roads that are still now being dug up right now. The people who, by the way, whose power lines have not been re-established since they were removed when this... There is nothing that people are inconvenienced by today that is not as a direct result of the construction of the expressway. Nothing. So you cannot cherry pick which one now that you'll fix. Oh, actually, today's Tuesday. So what we will do is let's just fix this section and we can say we're done. That's why they can tell you they'll be done by December 31st. Because they're going to do 3 things. And then they'll tell you that which they had established to do, they've actually finished. So
which for them is putting their wire mesh on the road.
And anytime somebody crashes into the wire mesh, come one lonely Sunday morning, by 12 noon, they fixed it. They tell you that whatever it is that they finished. Absolutely not.
Very many questions here about, the rehabilitation of the old Mombasa Road into Huru Highway, into Wayaki Way, and also extending beyond this. There's another different contractor who's been working on a road between ABC Place and Rironi Junction. The people of Odhiru, of Mountain View, all these people have been complaining and wondering, so how do we get home? Because the state of this road is still completely in shambles. If you go to Gitaru, and that's the junction between the southern bypass linking to the western bypass and dealing with the road to Nakuru, a whole complete mess. Who's in charge of this? We'd invited the Kenya National Highways Authority Director General. Unfortunately, he's not able to come in today because he is attending an engineers meeting in Mombasa. But we shall have him. In the meantime, we'll talk about the job that they ought to do. 24 minutes to 8.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Enjoy Black November with Cold Stone Creamery Kenya. Get 2 Gotta Have It cups and 2 cake slices at only 1,500 Kenya shillings. And other amazing deals for you and your friends this November. Visit any of our stores in Nairobi or Mombasa and enjoy creamy, smooth ice cream and deliciously crafted ice cream cakes. Ice cream is always a great idea.
Everyone remembers the ambition they first had when they started their business.
A business holds promise. An idea could blow up and change lives anywhere on the planet. But the best idea is not worth much if it can't be executed by a solid team. Introducing The Room, the talent solution that provides a global network of tech talent, relationships, and resources dedicated to drive growth and innovation in your business. Hire tech talent and pick from qualified software engineers, cloud developers, web developers, and data analysts, all vetted and trained to Silicon Valley standards. The way we work has changed, and subsequently, so should the way we hire. Visit theroom.com today and discover how we can improve your business.
All right, looking at partly cloudy conditions in Nairobi at 16, highs of 24. We'll see highs of 24 as well in a partly sunny Nakuru, going to lows of 13. Light rain now in Nyeri at 16, highs of 22 and lows of 14. And at 14, it's sunny in Eldoret, highs of 23. We'll see highs of 31 in a rainy Mombasa at 27. And it's 27 and light rain in parts of Malindi as well, going to highs of 31. 21 and rainy in Kisumu, highs of 27. And we'll see highs of 26 in a cloudy Kakamega at 20. It's 19 and a wet morning in Kampala, highs of 26 and lows of 18, and 28 and raining in Dar es Salaam, going to highs of 32. 18 and sunny in Johannesburg, highs of 25 and lows of 14, and it's a rainy morning now in Lagos at 25. It'll go to highs of 32. We'll see highs of 31 in a mostly clear Kinshasa at 24.
Spice up your life.
All right, so quite something in many parts. Rilo Odinga Way, then feeding off onto Gong Road and going towards into the city. We're also looking at it coming off Kamkunji, heavy on Haile Selassie, and looking at other parts now, coming off Gong Road, going in other direction, then out towards Gitanga Road, Naivasha Road, all leading into Lavington and out towards James Gishuru. That's pretty busy as you cross over to Wayaki Way. It's busy coming out of Westlands. Ring Road Westlands is in and outbound, heavy blocked traffic, and that's going to feed into Peponi and whatever is coming out then through to Limuru Road. Kiambu Road is doing that thing again today. folks. We had knocked on wood and hoped it wouldn't be, but it's busy traffic and has slowed down considerably in the last half hour. So if you don't have to use Kiambu Road, do not. The Thika Superhighway is wagging its tongue and saying it's not doing too badly this morning with traffic going out towards Surveys, where you see the heaviest of it, at least for now. Juja Road is also heavy. Coming into the city, we'll keep an eye on things, so let us know what's going on where you are on SpiceFM, KE on Twitter.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
9012600. Talk about the impact of the construction of the expressway on especially the other road users, and we're talking about particularly pedestrians along the entire stretch. Where do you board a matatu? How do you walk from the one stage to one point to the other? How many footbridges do you have access to? And how many places can you actually cross the road? How many places can you walk on a pedestrian walkway?
You know, when you do a casual reading on just the subject of road designs, as a layperson, one of the things you come across is the first look at the type of road it is, okay? And they're categorized. But there are certain fundamentals that every road is expected to have. It's meant to carry traffic. It's meant to be a highway, if it's a highway. They're fundamentals. You know, there are these things we call shoulders in a road, okay? Small little things that they put on the side of the road to ensure that, you know, even...
so the lamy does not just end abruptly?
No, it doesn't end abruptly. There's like a little something that reminds you that you've come to the end of
There's kidogo lamy on the side.
Yes, exactly. Okay? They're supposed to have even parking lanes. A place where, ideally, should something happen and you need to... Your car can break down.
Yeah.
Where do you live? In the middle of the road? No, there's a place where you can park it. Then there's supposed to be what they call bus bays, a place, what we call bus parks, where a bus can park. Then there are service roads. This Shell near Nyayo Stadium, that little expansion of the road so that vehicles coming from the petrol station can easily join the main thoroughfare, okay? In some advanced countries, they even have a cycle track, meaning a place where cyclists can actually go. And then they have guardrails. Now, if you look at this expressway, there's some chicken mesh that they've sort of like put on the side of the road.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, you first ask yourself, what am I seeing here? I don't know, is that supposed to be a guardrail? What is that supposed to be? What am I trying to say? That when you look at fundamentals of any road design, you would assume certain things would be taken care of. Because there's the understanding that of the multiplicity of function that that road purposes. It's not only people who own cars who are going to use that road. There are people who also use public transport. There are those who may not necessarily be using transport. The transport they're using are their legs.
Yep.
All these things have to be taken care of. So how do you approve a construction of a project like the one we see, and the fundamentals that any lay person who bothers to read can find out about and know these are the things that are fundamental? You're telling us you have this swanky expressway, and yet the very fundamentals that existed on this road, we are talking about things that existed. They existed because when it was designed, they put them there. Then you come across a new design or a new plan which now does away with what already existed. The things we're asking for here, the majority are not things which are new. They existed.
No, nobody's even asking you to be, creative and come up with something
return
special
what you took away.
Just return what it did, and then just make the road accessible and then pliable for people who must use it.
Yes.
Because we cannot run away from the reality that there are people who will not be able to afford to use the expressway on a regular basis. We know that. There are quite a number of people who
the
may
vast
be able
majority
to use
of those road users will not use it.
Even those who will use it today on a Tuesday may not be able to use it Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and will probably use it again in a few days. Yeah. This is the truth of the matter. But one might ask the question that why are we up in arms over this thing? Why are we making noise about this matter? After all, did they not send a statement telling us that they are going to fix this thing by the end of December. See, they've said they're going to fix it.
Yeah, but they said it even earlier.
Thank you very much. Now, this is the thing. That even at the time where there were those crazy traffic jams, do you remember what we were told? When there was dust that was then affecting children who lived in this area,
it became a health hazard.
And what are we told? Every 3 hours, there will be water bowsers that will be coming and they will be spraying water on the road, and so making sure that the dust does not rise in the air. We were told. Did it happen? It didn't happen.
It happened in words.
Thank you very much. Now, that is why people are up in arms today. Because you do not do what you say. And if we have seen that, not on a different matter, this same matter, when you said you were going to do certain things you did not do, what is the assurance that in this instance, I don't care, by the way, whether it is Moja Express, whether it is China Who, whether it is Kenha, whoever else, it doesn't matter who it is. On this same issue, the things that you said you were going to do, you did not do.
No, you didn't.
You didn't do. So what is to guarantee people that come December 31st, we will now be able to get on public transport from Green Park, which, by the way, is where it's going to be, from Green Park, get on a vehicle, and if I want to stop at a designated bus stop in order for me to cross over, because, by the way, no, you will not be able to cross over Mombasa Road.
Yep, unless you're using a footbridge.
But if you're where you're going is nowhere near a footbridge, there's nothing like, oh, okay,
walk to the nearest footbridge.
There's nothing like, oh, let's see if we can erect a couple more for you. You cannot cross over the expressway because for obvious reasons, it ceases to be an expressway if there's going to be a break in it, right? So that is the reality you're going to live with. And the truth of the matter is that they did not take into consideration what was going to happen to the old Mombasa Road with the establishment of the expressway. It was not taken into consideration. So anything that they're going to do now is going to be, okay, let us see what we can do, if it will even be considered.
They have signed 5 more footbridges. Guess how much that's going to cost? George in Limuru, good morning.
Morning, how are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well. Now, as much as the expressway affects you guys, we are also affected by the James Gishuru Rironi road that was fixed.
That too, yes. Tell us about it, please.
That is a disaster.
Explain.
There is no single footbridge. There is no stage. There is no service lane. There is no, shoulder where people can walk. It's just even a single zebra crossing.
Yep.
Nothing. We talk of the bridges that the underpass bridges. Once it rains, it's a disaster. It's a dam.
It's a flood zone.
Yes. It is just horrible design that was done, and it is not complete, and there are no signs of it being done again. As in,
George,
unless,
when is the last time that when did you last use this section of the road?
Sorry?
When did you last use this section of the road between James
It's
Gishuru?
my daily road.
Every day?
Yes.
So when did you last see the contractor on site?
Well, I think 2020?
Huh?
Yeah. And you know, and the moment you're seeing him, he's trying to repair things that have spoiled. It's not construction. You can see. It isn't construction. It's repair of a section that,
So for people who may not really realize what's happening is that the expansion of James Gishuru to Rironi was to create extra lanes and service lanes. Now,
we haven't seen the service lane.
But you've seen the wider road.
The wider road is there.
How are people crossing from one side of the road to the other side of the road?
It's a race.
So you've got to do the timing of the matatu and the vehicles passing.
Exactly. The people that have died on that road being knocked.
Yep.
And the accidents, because there are no signs, there are no nothing. It's horrible.
Yep.
Crazy. The last thing actually they did was just drawing the lines,
Yeah, thank you, George. Let's hear from others as we pick the other callers. Ndu, please go to the news library and check that news article where the CS James Macharia was complaining about this contractor, saying that they needed, I think, 3 more months. And he said they needed 6 more months, and he said, I'm going to give you only 3 more months. And that this road was going to be completed by the time Macharia was out of office. Andrew.
Hey, how are you?
Good morning.
Morning to you. How are you?
Very well.
I wanted to add up on the Rironi Kangemi Road.
Yes.
That road is a disaster waiting to happen. And unfortunately, all the heavy goods trucks that go to use the southern bypass first go through there. All the way from the Rironi to Kikuyu. So what happens is they have left some gaps between the wall that has been put there. That I think are for installing street lights. That is what is left for passengers to cross by.
So that's how people are crossing the road.
That is how people cross the road.
Squeezing themselves into those gaps.
Yes. Motorbikes also squeeze themselves into those gaps. If you get to a place called not Tigoni.
Sigona?
There's a Sigona.
Yep.
There's a junction going into Limuru. And the matatus have made it a bus stop. And it's a downhill. So it has become so dangerous that I think I will send a video in so that people can see what I'm talking about.
Please do that. Please take a video and tag us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
I'll do that.
Thank you, Andrew. Eric Inutawala, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
How are you?
Fine, sir. Really, I'm following what you are discussing, and it's really very productive.
What's your experience on this road?
I'm coming from. I'm using Mombasa Road and Eastern Bypass. I'm from Utawala.
Okay.
There's a new road. There's this dual road which was still under construction.
The expansion of the Eastern Bypass.
The same. There are no service lanes. U-turn is not visible.
Yeah.
And every day you see accidents there. Now, where I'm actually branching, I'm branching where we call it Kayole Junction. It's called Shooters. People who are crossing to come to town, there is no bridge. Unapatisha tu, you see the vehicles there, and then you run. So, and everything is actually, even somebody who has not done engineering can easily tell something is wrong. And it's unfortunate. The same thing to Mombasa Road. When I try to avoid using the inland container depot to reduce the inconvenience that is experienced at GM. So really something went wrong, and I'm wondering why the opposition is talking about GMOs and they are not seeing this one also. These are terrible things. Is it I don't know why they are not talking about the expressway, and yes, Aquila is Aquila. So really I appreciate this topic, and continue the good work for us, speaking on our behalf.
Asante
who don't
sana.
have a Yeah.
Asante sana. Thank you, Eric. 0719-012-600. Want to hear your personal experience, and as you're hearing all these roads, it's about pedestrians. Pedestrian walkways, footbridges, an issue. It took very many years for Kenya to actually, after the completion of the Thika Superhighway, for Kenya to come back and start erecting footbridges. It's like, oh my God, people need to cross the road. Okay, let's issue a separate contract. Same thing now they're saying, we are going to construct 5 new footbridges between Mulolongo and Airtel, and then another one in Westlands. Did you not know that there are people who needed to cross the road?
It's deliberate. It's deliberate. We are seeing and experiencing the consequences of impunity. This is what happens when you have a system that, right from the very top, you have a leadership that ignores court orders and you think it doesn't have consequences. What you're doing is telling them the rule of law doesn't apply. And when that message is passed down, anyone in our system of government who has authority will do things believing and knowing full well that nothing will happen. So long as you have the money, how do you have a budget for a road and you know the people who are in Kenya, these are engineers. This is what they have studied. You cannot tell me they didn't know.
They just, it occurred to them after the completion of the road, or even now as we speak, as a contractor is working and has been working for very many years on the section between ABC Place, James Gishuru Road and Rironi Junction, that they haven't considered how pedestrians are going to cross the road. You know, we said it here like it's a joke. There are children who were born and they're now going to kindergarten, and what they see happening outside their home in Kangemi, in Uthiru, they think that's how a highway should look like.
You know, when you drive there, you actually have to drive slowly because there are people crossing, and it's supposed to be a highway.
And it's on a daily basis.
For heaven's sake.
It's crazy. Let's go back to the phone lines. Ali in Mombasa, good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Oh, I'm happy to say again that this situation room is really giving us a situation.
Yep.
A room that always give us thinking and give us a lot of knowledge.
Karibu sana.
What I'm trying to ask is, before we build any road, we see a lot of people who have been employed to do research.
Yep.
You can say we get people writing about how many cars are going to pass, what should be the junctions and whatever. Are they not asked to say whether there are people crossing the road?
No, it appears like they are told to focus on the cars.
Focus on the cars. These cars is used by people.
So, seems like it.
Yeah, these cars drop people on their way. These cars, they have to be allowed to use those roads because of the people.
Yeah.
Now, when it's done, those people who approve that feasibility study, don't they take a route also, do around and see whether these people are supposed to be crossing the road or the cars are supposed to be dropping people and whatever?
Yeah.
That is my question. Thank you.
Thank you. Karanja.
Yes, Eric, Student City.
Good morning.
Morning, Karanja.
Yes, I'm verified the city Muka. Now my problem is, name them Kura or Okera. Why don't they have a plan when building these roads to consider people who are cycling? Why are not they doing the cycling lanes? Like in Mombasa here, for instance, they have decided to construct a road, but all of a sudden we complained. And if you come along the Naivasha way from the wild drive from the junction, the main junction from Nakuru, the BC Nakuru Nairobi highway, they have decided to put some cycling lane there. And I think this is something that it should be on the road. Whatever they are deciding to plan any road in Kenya.
They should factor in.
Especially, yes, they should consider the cycling lane, the pedestrian lane.
Yeah.
And I think this should be very, very good thing for them to do. Thank you very much, Eric Kidu and City.
Thank you, Karanja. 19th of April, 2021. Transport Cabinet Secretary James Macharia has issued an ultimatum to engineers from China Wuyi firm over the delays in the 16 billion shillings Waiyaki Way expansion project. The project involves the expansion of the 25 kilometers James Gishuru to Rironi Road stretch along Waiyaki Way into a superhighway. The project, which began in 2017, was slated to be completed in December 2020. What's the date today, Ndu?
Today is November 22nd, 2022.
The CS said that the delays were becoming more frequent and gave an ultimatum for the road to be completed by the end of July 2021. That's not what we agreed on. You told us that December 2020, then it was February 2021, then April, and now you want December. No way, it can't work like that. We've been helping you with everything that you have asked, and now you want more time? I thought we are coming to prepare for the commissioning, but now it cannot be done because you're saying 3 kilometers are not ready. What we want now is to get a firm commitment that the road will be completed in the next 2 months. That's what he said in when? In April 2021. 2 months. We are talking about a section that the contractor said only 3 kilometers. Only 3 kilometers are left. You're hearing the people who are talking about this in the morning, and they're saying there's no marking on the road.
There's nothing. It's a race to make it to the other side alive.
Madness.
Like the war of the jungle, man.
Let's just take a break. Let's hear the news. It's 8 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua now says that Kenya Kwanza government will continue to engage with all development partners as it implements its manifesto. Speaking in Lagdera, Garissa County, when he graced the launch of a drought response plan, the DP said they were open to partnership with all those ready to support its development initiatives. The DP was responding to allegations by opposition leader Raila Odinga, who said that the Kenya Kwanza government was causing up to the West too much. These as Pokot South Member of Parliament David Kosing has protested the move by the government to import 10 million bags of maize, saying that farmers will face the brunt of any such attempts. Kosing castigated Trade Industrialization Cabinet Secretary Moses Kuria for announcing plans to import maize, terming it immoral and erratic. The Pokot South MP vowed that farmers want the government through the National Cereals and Produce Board to buy their maize at a minimum of 4,500 shillings from them in order to make profit.
I want to call the minister to stop with immediate effect. I'm going to petition Parliament so that Parliament can also weigh in on this issue, that the minister should stop. And if he doesn't stop, we'll tell the farmers, and he will see the wrath of farmers. You can't. What is the rationale of importing maize when we are harvesting? I mean, I don't know whether Waziri lives in this country. That's why members of Parliament were asking us that we should have a minister from where the maize are grown, so that he feels the pinch. But because we are Kenyans and Honorable Kuria is also a Kenyan, I want to plead with him before we go to the next level. If he's being forced by some white businessmen or multinational companies to be able to dispose their 10 million bags, I want to tell Honorable Kuria, I want to plead with Honorable Kuria to desist with that pressure and listen to the pressure of our people.
He elaborated that the cost of input, which includes fertilizer, seeds and ploughing farmers, will incur losses if the government would opt to buy the maize any less. Kosing said that importation of maize will interfere with the flow of supply and demand, hence lowering the maize price due to surplus in the market.
It is Kenyans first and other people later. I want Honorable Kuria to listen to that and listen to our people. Don't listen to some outsiders, because I am of the opinion that the minister is being pushed by multinational organizations, which we will name them at the right time. This country belongs to the people of Kenya, and farmers are the people of Kenya. And if we are to represent hustlers, and then farmers are the first hustlers that need to be considered, not those multinationals. Those are not hustlers.
Now, Safaricom Chief Executive Officer Peter Ndegwa has been appointed by President William Ruto to chair the National Steering Committee on Drought Response, the 14-member team whose mandate is to establish a private sector-led drought mitigation appeal fund under the auspices of Kenya Red Cross, was gazetted by the President. President Ruto noted that following government's request, the private sector, non-government organizations and international development partners agreed to scale up their support towards the interventions to mitigate the effects of the worsening drought situation in the country. Those listed in the committee includes James Mwangi of Equity Bank, Nassim Davji of Diamond Trust Bank, Shaman Savani Africa Corporation Bank, Paul Russo of KCB, Rebecca Mbithi Family Bank, Jen Karuko EABL, Joshua Chepkoni, Jamii Telecommunication, and Crispin Achola of BAT. Others are Asha Mohammed of Red Cross, Edwin Mukabana, Kenya Bus Management, Patricia Ndegwa of Impact Philanthropy Africa, and Krishna Chavda of Isha Foundation, and Harid Hassan from the National Drought Management Authority. The President also appointed Murimi Murage of the Office of Deputy President as the Secretary to the committee. The team will be reporting to Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, who already provides intergovernmental leadership and coordination of drought response. The committee will serve for a period of 1 year. Kenya has for the last 4 years experienced drought due to unexpected low rainfall, resulting in poor harvest in some parts of the country. And quack Dr. Mugairi has been sentenced to 33 years in jail for sedating women with the intention to commit sexual acts and operating a clinic without license. These was after a Nairobi court found him guilty of running an illegal clinic and dragging patients to perform sexual offences against them. Despite Chief Magistrate Wendy Kagendo sentencing him to 3 decades behind bars, he will only serve 9 years. This is because he has already served 3 years in custody while the case was still in court.
The conclusion is the accused person is acquitted in counts number 1, that is rape. It was the employment, since that was not adequately proved, but is however convicted in counts number 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 and 12 as appears in the charge sheet. He is convicted under section 215 of the Criminal Procedure Code.
This is Newswire. Dennis Azera. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
All right, traffic in many parts of the city this morning. I was still seeing it doing the thing on Kiambu Road. The Thika Superhighway, not too much going on there. Folks are using the service lane to get out in the city much quicker. So there's an option for you to use right now. Langata Road was starting to build up. We're seeing also an accident at Roasters Underpass on your way to Allsops involving 3 vehicles from Garden City. Use the service lane. Save time, folks. That's what we're being encouraged to do this morning. So think about that. Coming off of Mombasa Road, we're not going to see too much traffic at all. So it looks good. You're going to get to the Nyeri Stadium roundabout, and then you can slow down a little bit as you head towards Haile Selassie. Naivasha Road towards Ngong Road is moving on very well today, so that doesn't look too bad. Keep an eye on things. SpiceFM KE on Twitter as much as possible to keep things moving.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
7 minutes after
the
8.
only
Good
way.
morning. It's the 22nd day of November 2022, 221122.
221122.
Mm-hmm. And he said this is a what?
It's a palindrome of the
Right.
dates. It's a dated palindrome.
Mm. Could also be just, palindrome doesn't have to be numbers.
No, it doesn't. It can be in letters and word. Yes.
Like that thing, EWE. Pronounce.
You.
Ewe Mwenyezi Mungu nisaidie.
You pronounce that thing. Say you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, feeling healthy?
Quite. I did the thing yesterday. You know I did. And life is made a lot better when you're onto your fitness goals with the Watch 5 Pro. And that's by Samsung. And you can take your fitness goals to the next level with the new Samsung Galaxy Watch 5 and Watch 5 Pro. Count your steps, count your calories. See, you know those calories you've been counting. And even your routines. Jumping jacks, lunges, quads, those things. So no, these devices, they even support over 90 exercises that you can track right from your watch. They can tell you you've done your squats and go on to your jumping jacks, go on to skip 100, go on to, lunges and things like that. So you can choose how it looks. You want a vintage look, you want a modern analog to digital. Select a watch face to help you face the day. Connect to your Galaxy Watch 5 with your Galaxy devices and take advantage of the powerful ecosystem within which you can exist. They're available in all select Samsung shops countrywide.
Very good. City, take us to Western Sahara.
Well, that is precisely what I'm going to do. Now that Ndu has waxed very eloquently about her phone.
Watch.
And her watch.
Yes, I know it's a watch. The reason why I'm using the word phone is because for the longest time, phones were associated with certain things. Okay? Some of the things that this watch does have always been associated with a phone or a gadget or the other, which is specific to that. Well, why don't I now also shout loudly about a certain gadget, okay, that does precisely that? That is the Galaxy Tab S8 Ultra. Okay? Right. Now, the proverb of the day. Old ways and old friends ought not to be disbanded.
Old ways and old friends ought not to be disbanded.
Well done.
Sindio?
Yes. I was waiting for the ought not.
But again, with this proverb, you need to consider that even as I'm talking about this delightful tablet, the Galaxy Tab S8 Ultra, this is a modern gadget. So there are certain new ways you must introduce into your life. Like using a gadget like this, using a tablet like this to be able to read.
Yeah, I think Ken had need to discard old ways and old friends.
Yes.
Because the Kenya National Highways Authority has the worst old friends.
In fact.
And old habits.
Yes. Which clearly die hard. The problem is you may die with those things. There's a little possibility.
Old friends and old habits ought not to be.
But you know something about this tablet is that there's a certain old ways that people never quite grow out of. That is writing. There's something called an S Pen that comes along with it. So instead of typing using a keyboard, you can actually write
with it.
Oh yes, you can.
You can scribble on the screen.
You can scribble and do whatever it is you need to do.
Voila.
Yes, and voila. This and I'm going to use the word instrument here. My friend can convert that into a format that is the equivalent of print. And yet all you're doing is writing and scribbling. But it brings whatever it is that you're writing to life. Makes it live. It comes alive.
City couldn't just let you shine with your watch.
No.
That I wasn't going to let.
I was on this thing. I even included him counting calories, doing exercises. You couldn't just let me be with my watch.
And wait your turn.
And wait to talk about your tab.
No.
Allow a girl to shine in the sun.
Surely, man.
Can't a girl allow herself to be accompanied when she's shining?
Okay.
That
touche.
too well.
Touche, monsieur.
Right.
Touche.
So let's continue talking about this particular now focus on James Gishuru Road, Rironi, right? And the entire mess that this has been. This project started in 2017 when Uhuru Kenyatta was campaigning for re-election. Uhuru Kenyatta has left office. Uhuru Kenyatta is making peace in Africa. He's dealing with Ethiopians. He's dealing with the M23 and the DRC government. He's left office. Road, not completed. Another section from Mololongo at the interchange to Kitengela, interchange to Machakos. He launched that project as he was launching his campaign for re-election in 2017. And again, the same Uhuru Kenyatta is dealing with peace in Africa. Chaos on these roads. What on earth is happening? Moses Nerito is on the line. Good morning, Moses.
Morning, Eric. Hi, City, and the lovely lady too. How are you guys doing?
Very well, Moses. Thank you, Moses. How are you?
Very good.
Moses, you've been on this show before, and we've talked about the state of affairs, and particularly road safety, because you're a big campaigner of road safety.
Guys, I think maybe the best thing you said is today's proverb. We've forgotten our old ways and should not have discarded them. And that's the same reason why buildings are dropping down left, right, and center. How you start wondering who supervises these roads. They're behaving like the road was put like Legos, and one day we woke up and it was there. We saw these things happening, and they go all the way to that Rironi junction. It's a complete mess. Over a weekend, you cannot even cross over. So it kills the whole idea of entering the southern bypass. keep coming down. You get to, if you live in Waroko, if you want to go to Kianda, how do you take your kids to school?
Yep.
They didn't actually do, what are they called? Laybys for you to leave the highway to get into those. Come down, you get to Brookside. It's a bus stop, and then it's a 90-degree turn to get into Brookside. So if you're coming out of Brookside onto Wayaki Way, you find traffic flying down, and then that you're trying to get in there.
And there are people who are also now trying to maneuver from entering the expressway because they don't want to enter the expressway.
So at least when they're trying to enter the expressway, there's traffic. You can fight and
slow down.
Squeeze in. You come on the day when there's no traffic. Matatus are flying down. So you're coming straight into a highway, into a road. Westlands, I don't even know what to call it. Yeah, they have the U-turns. If you're coming from, let's say, Westlands, from Consulate, and you want to go to Sari, those U-turns, even those guys who put those U-turns there, they can't see where they put them in the wrong place. Yeah. Then the matatus are carrying people in the middle of the road. Not their fault, because where are they supposed to park?
There's no bus stop.
Exactly. So instead of guys going to Mombasa to speak to other engineers, take those engineers, put them on the road, as Ndu said, let them do a field trip. Let them enter. Even what we should tell them is, go to the Nairobi Expressway office by matatu.
Yes.
And see how you will cross that road.
Yep.
And your mission is to get to the end of the road. That is your mission.
This business of people being in Prados and pushing us out of the road is why they don't realize what the rest of us are going through.
Yep.
Yeah. Because they don't see. Yeah, and then they're using the top road and they don't. It's a complete mess. I once said, maybe sometimes you wonder if our roads are engineered by, and no offense to blind people, because how does that happen? And engineers go to school for 6 years. Then they have to be certified. It's a complete mess. It's actually a complete mess. It's, as the city said, it's impunity, and impunity from this point of view, that we are building roads for cars, not for people. If we had built those roads with people in mind, they would be very different.
They would be.
Because look at Ngong Road. Look at Ngong Road. No, Ngong Road, from Junction all the way to, what is this place called? Mortuary Roundabout.
Mortuary Roundabout. That section is okay.
What a beautiful road. Same agency.
From Junction
so what happened
to
Karen. Exactly. So how does the same agency make a mistake on one road? You do a very good part. It's got bicycle lanes, it's got walkways, it's got everything that we expect of a road. Then the next part you do, I don't know what I would just call madness. How?
This is impunity, and like we're talking about this,
zero supervision. Zero supervision.
Somebody should take responsibility. Moses, thank you very much for speaking to us.
Yes, guys.
Asante.
Cheers.
We want to open the phone lines. Let's open this up. It's a rant and rave session because people have actually, from the moment when we talked about this last week and said the CS for roads and transport, Kipchumba Murkomen, should talk to his engineers at Kenya. There's a lot of public outcry on this.
Yes.
And you realize it's not just one section of the road, it's very many parts of the roads. The CS, to his credit, says he instructed Kenya to respond to this. And this is the reason why we have this statement, which says nothing. Says we are going to complete this thing by the end of December, and then we have set aside some money which we are going to work on, and we are working with the utility companies which we are working with, and we are going to put under this as footbridges, and the footbridges will be done.
Kenya is nestled in that ministry, is it not?
Yes, it is.
And the minister does have powers, does he not?
He does.
So did you hear? I mean, I haven't come across anything that was done that would amount to action being taken against people who are supposed to be in charge of this. Forget these long stories. These are not politicians. Why are they playing the role of politicians? We expect them to tell us things which they never do. That we've understood. But you've been funded, your job is clear, and yet you are telling us stories. You're talking about walkways. What about lanes which disappeared?
Yep.
Okay. What about street lights which were there before? The question here is, can you just return the road to what it was before?
Nobody's asking you to build an entire metropolis now or to recreate something in the imagination of minds of a developed city. Nobody's asking you to do that. Everybody is saying, at least return the state of convenience that was there before you mucked about with the road. And that's it.
They did say, when issues were raised at the beginning, they said, no. As the road is being completed, part of what they will do is return the road to factory settings, meaning exactly what was there before.
On the 31st of October 2021, the previous Cabinet Secretary for Transport and Roads, James Macharia, said that the old road will be in a better state once it's fully reopened for use next month. Next month now was November, a year ago today. He highlighted that the contractors are currently done with piling and they are setting up the beams, which will be done by mid-November, which is right about now, last year, to enable the old road to be open by December. We will not just open the old way, but it involves restoring and enhancing the road. So the things that we are talking about now, it's not as though we are building castles in the sky. He said they were going to do these things. It has been mostly damaged because of the heavy equipment which is being used for construction. But worry not. It's not me making up these words. But worry not, as we shall leave it in a better condition than we found it.
You know,
this is in Kenya.
Yes.
This is here.
This was the CS for transport.
Yes.
We are not talking about James Macharia, the individual.
No.
The finance expert,
in
the
his
banker.
capacity
It
as
is the Minister
Cabinet
for Roads.
Secretary for Transport and Roads. The road we're talking about is this one that everybody has an issue with.
You know, this is about the citizens of this country. Now, the agencies in this country whose job it is to make sure that all is okay. Now, people who work for Kenya, people who work in that ministry, you know, when we talk about wealth declaration and lifestyle audits, it must be done for people who work in this ministry and these agencies, because you cannot tell us that 90 billion, 9 billion, whatever the billions allocated for a road, you don't see the very thing that it was mandated for doesn't happen. They need to audit the lifestyles of individuals who work in these places. They need to check the wealth declarations and they need to tell us what it is, because we already have cases of individuals who've worked in these agencies that deal with the roads and who couldn't quite explain how it is they accumulated their wealth. I don't need 10 people. I just need one person who has worked in this sector. And I am saying everyone who works there, should have their lifestyles audited, and we should understand how much money they actually have, because that money that was allocated for the road did not build the road. So where did it go?
That's true. And look, if it's the only thing you can shout about, because after all, they said they're sorting out these other issues. If it's the only thing you can shout about, for people to be kept accountable on the things that they said they were going to do, even if they didn't say they were going to do them, common sense, logic begs that the way in which you found something, leave it in that state once you're done. Or if you can, leave it in a better state. And you actually said that you were going to do this. It doesn't mean that people have to shout, that people have to be inconvenienced, that people have to die. Because, folks, that's how serious this thing is. Wahakiwe is just one sea of soot. People are crossing, trying to get over. People don't know where. James Geshoro there at that junction. Okay, do we cross here? There's no zebra crossing. There's nothing. And you think that you wake up every day and you get into your air-conditioned 4-wheel drive vehicle and you drive to Barabara House and you come back every day and you think that it is okay to window dress a situation and tell the people of the country that we will fix it by December, and you think it is okay not to do what you said you were going to do. Let it be on record today that it is not okay. And if it is the only thing that people are going to make noise about on a regular basis until you get your ducks in a row, then by golly, let's make noise about it every day.
You know, there were trees along these paths. Trees. Many of them were removed. But in their stead, if you look at the pillars, there was an attempt to grow some shrubs on those pillars.
Oh, those things, the green things.
Yeah, the green things. The green things look okay, but they try to grow something on it. Now, if you come from the roundabout in the GPO heading along Mombasa Road, that section, you actually find those things have actually grown. You see them. Live plants. But thereafter, you suddenly find, yes, those green thingamajigs are there, but the plants keep drying up. Now, these things were not a free donation. Somebody was paid to do these things. And you want to ask yourself, and this, of course, according to the design, was the best thing to have done. The shrubbery that existed before, the understanding when you do such things is you replace them. We're not asking you to return the trees that you cut down. No. There has to be an effort that shows that, yes, we did remove these, but in their stead, this is what we have done to ensure that the purpose that they served continues.
How about just starting something and finishing?
This is it. And do what you said you were going to do.
Start something and
finish it.
I am sure in the designs, for example, for this section between ABC Place and Ironi, there were timelines. It was supposed to have been completed by 2020. 2017 to 2018 to 2019 to 2020. If we just count all years inclusive, 4. We have gone from 2021 into 2022. Contractor is not on site. What is this?
Eric.
Same thing. The expressway, not completed. The other section to Machakos, not completed. The other section from Junction to Karen. All the way onwards into Ngong, not completed, and very many other sections of the road. Engineers, the Institution for Engineers of Kenya are meeting in Mombasa, and among those engineers are those that design these roads.
And the people who are actually...
And they're sitting there.
People who are supposed to oversee these roads are also in that particular meeting.
How about people just do the thing that they are supposed to?
Eric, they know nothing will happen to them even if they don't complete their jobs. They know.
It doesn't matter how many children actually have to go through the trauma of trying to cross a road to school.
How is that their concern?
Because their children are picked by school bus, or they drop their children, or they have a driver that takes them to school. It doesn't matter that a child somewhere in Reagan is trying to cross over from this side of the road to the other side of the road because that's where the school is.
But we know of lives that have been lost simply because of these simple things that we're talking about that they were supposed to do that were just the basics, fundamentals. When people understand now the nature and the consequences of impunity, you know it doesn't matter what ill you commit. It doesn't matter the crimes you commit against humanity, the humanity being the Kenyan. Nothing will happen to you. So you simply do what you think and you don't care because, after all, what is going to happen to you? Because if we keep talking about these cases and they keep multiplying and we see them, they've understood. Nothing will happen.
But this impunity goes all the way up in government.
Yes, it does.
Because when you see a CS coming more than once saying, this road is going to be repaired, and then the CS comes and says, we are going to issue a contract for the repair of the roads, knowing full well, why are we issuing an extra contract for repair of a road? What was the initial plan?
The initial contract, the money, what was it for?
What was it for?
Yes.
Okay. So this contractor has come and demolished a road to construct a road, which we are going to pay for the next 26 years for the construction. And then we set aside more money for repair of the damages that he has done while we are paying him for. And then eventually we come to hear that even that contract that was promised was never issued. And life moves on and goes on.
Like it's normal.
How?
The only,
How do we just sit back
the only thing that moves,
things
Eric,
happen?
When there's a certain amount of money that is planned for, that money supposedly leaves wherever the money is nestled in, and it moves to supposedly build the road. The money is never, you don't hear of money allocated not having been used. No, it's sitting somewhere. Now, where does it go to? Because money doesn't move on its own. People move it. So the people who are in charge of this, where do they move the money to? It's a never-ending story, and you wonder why it is that when people say that at the heart of the dysfunction that we sometimes see in government has to do with the people who have the mandate to ensure that they manage our resources, managing it to benefit themselves and only themselves. So, if it seems to be the norm, again, consequences of it starts with a leadership that disregards the law, the rule of law. And people take the cue.
It's the way to go.
It's the way to go, and nothing will happen to you. No one wants to do what they're supposed to do. They want to do it because of the extra benefits that they derive from it. And it's become the norm. It's what's normal. And it doesn't matter. And you even want to ask, okay, so at what point, Eric, you ask the question, is it enough? It's never enough. is you move from one road to the other. You do the bare minimum that shows that some effort has been made. Even this very road here, the moment you leave Airtel and you take that little curb, that road is uneven. There's always a dip.
Yep.
Which means whatever was done on that, the upper, it's now an upper part, should have been done on the lower part. It's how long has that been? And there are sections when you turn around and go back to town. You know that roundabout near General Motors?
Yeah.
There's a section there that already has serious potholes and it's growing. I thought the understanding was that the damage caused would be returned to, as I called it, factory settings.
That's everybody else's understanding. Clearly not theirs.
Yes.
People are ranting and raving about very many other parts of roads under construction. Remember the NZU bridge?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
In December last year, people from one village were going to another part of Kitui County. And they were crossing a bridge in Mwingi called the NZU Bridge at the NZU River.
Yes.
It was flooded. There was flash floods. The driver attempted to cross with people on board this canter.
It was a bus.
It was a bus.
Yes.
Washed. Many people died.
They did.
Officials from government went there and they said, actually, yes, we had
Bro,
started this construction.
They went in choppers.
This construction, we had started it. I want to assure that by the end of January, this bridge will be completed.
As we speak?
As we speak, the NZU bridge in Mwingi, not yet complete. We're in another rainy season.
We're in another government.
Another government. People still need to cross from one part to go to the other part. People coming from Mwingi and they're going to know they can only use this section of the road. So what do we expect to see again this time? And what happened to the promise that thing was going to be done? The bridge whose construction had already started, whose construction had already been commissioned, was not completed. Professor Architect Maringa, who's still the PS for infrastructure, went there and pledged that by end of January, that bridge would be completed. To date, it hasn't been finished. So what are we talking about? It's not about who's in power, who's not. It's who's in office. You as an engineer, you as a supervisor, you who is working as a public servant, and you have a job to do. Why can't you just
do your job?
Oversee that the job is actually getting done. It is so disheartening and annoying sometimes. You actually wonder what's wrong. Let's take a break at 28 minutes to 9. With all this ranting and raving, we'll open up the phone lines for you to continue. I mean, which other part of Kenya has not been completed since God knows 20 whatever? Right? Let's hear from you. We'll take a break. We'll be back shortly.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
London Mulo DJ Absolute. When the gang is together, got the sugar, got the spice.
Yorada.
Yes.
I have missed you like hot hamburgers. Yeah?
Like hot hamburgers.
Bad boys give more money than you can count.
Hey, bad boys give more money than you can count. If it's fun, it's funky, it's fresh, you're definitely going to catch it here. I don't know what you do every day from 11 a.m. to 3 o'clock, but if I were you, I'd tune in to
Sugar and Spice only on 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
So if you say it's on, then it's on. Yeah.
All right, so still looking at cloudy conditions in Nairobi, highs of 24 and lows of 16. We'll see highs of 24 in Nakuru, where it's cloudy at 15, and it'll go to highs of 22 in a rainy Nyeri at 18. And the sun is out in Eldoret at 16, highs of 23 and lows of 14. All right, so at 28, it's raining in parts of Mombasa, highs of 31, and we'll see highs of 31 as well in a rainy Malindi. At 21, it's raining in Kisumu, highs of 26, and 26 will be the high in a mostly cloudy Kakamega at 21. 20 and raining in Kampala, 28 and raining in Dar es Salaam, 18 and sunny conditions in Johannesburg, and we're looking at light rain at 25 in Lagos, while it's mostly sunny at 24 in Kinshasa.
spice up your life.
All right, we're looking at traffic still continuing in several parts of the city. If we're looking at the Thika Superhighway, still continues as you go out towards the CBD. Also, a little bit of traffic here and there that's happening coming out of Westlands towards Wayaki Way. It continues coming out of Ngong Road and also touching on Raila Odinga Way through into the city. It's not been too bad. Coming off of Mombasa Road, and so we're looking at traffic then dwindling as we go towards 9. Let's talk through the morning on SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
0719-012-600. So, piga kelele. Let's rave. City, you were saying there are other parts of the country that you have heard people complaining about. Projects that started, projects that stalled.
And it's not even months, it's years. You know, if you go to Homa Bay County, people know about Mbita, people know about the Sipe Center. And there's and people assume that actually Mbita is the headquarters of Suba. Actually, commercial maybe, but the administrative is actually a place called Sindo. Now, there's a road from Mbita to Sindo, and there's a section. When it rains, it becomes a lake. It becomes almost impassable, and there's black cotton soil. So I was asking someone the other day, we were talking about, it turns out that they come from that region, and it also turns out that I worked in that region. So I asked, there's this section of the road that was a bit of a problem, because from there you go to Sindo, then you go towards Gwasi. He told me, sorry, they are still fixing it. I said, they're still doing what exactly? It hasn't been, that road, I said, there was talk of putting a tarmac on the road. Said, yeah, you know, they keep repairing it. I'm thinking. So I asked him, okay, what about the Gwasi Road that goes on to a place called Sori and then goes on to Migori County? So yeah, that one is now passable. Now, you know, some of those roads, you had a problem driving through them in the dry season when there is no rain. Because you're not sure whether it's a road or not, but because of the dips, the rainy season comes and washes away certain sections of the road. Now, there are roads in this country that when you talk to the people in charge, you talk even to the area MP, they'll tell you, yes, it was commissioned. We even know the contractor who's supposed to start. And yes, and you ask, so has the contractor been given that deposit that they normally given before they start the job? And the conversation ends there.
That's it. That's the end of that.
Yes. For me, what I consider tragic is when I don't drive around the country as I used to now, but when I looked at the road network that the previous government had actually completed and done, it is a marvelous thing to behold because it changes so much.
When they complete it.
Yes. And then you begin to ask, if they actually did what they said they were going to do, how much better off would the citizenry of this country be? Because, you know, the road network is a security issue. It is something that is fundamental to security because it facilitates movement. Yes.
Audrey in Kino, good morning.
Morning, Eric. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Morning, Drew. Morning, Sixty.
Good morning, Audrey.
So my complaint is about two roads. The first one is the Wayaki Way, which I use on a daily basis.
Audrey, you're in a very windy place.
Yeah, I'm headed to work. Is that okay now?
Yes.
Yeah. Pull up the windows, yes.
Yes. So along Wayaki Way, before you get to Aga Khan School,
yes,
there are only two places for you to cross the road.
Yes.
That is at Kino. There is an underground channel for crossing.
In Kino?
Yes. And Mudiga also has an underground channel for crossing. Only.
The rest of the stretch?
Nowhere. to cross.
Up to
What
around
they have
Safaricom.
put- Yes. What they have put are these too small to bump to try and slow down traffic,
Yeah.
which doesn't really help. Because we have vehicles that pass those bumps like they're nothing.
Yeah.
You see school kids. I once saw school kids at Kangemi trying to climb over the wall that is in between the road for them to cross. And the thought of them just falling back
Yep.
gave me shivers.
Yep.
Because I'm imagining if they trip and fall back. And there's a matatu that is coming at a high speed.
Yep.
What will happen to these kids? Because the bridge at Kangemi is not yet complete. And that is what they usually use to cross the road.
Audrey, over the last 5 years,
Yes.
not 5, 7 years that this project has been ongoing, have they ever created a place for pedestrians to cross the road, even during construction?
Never. It is for you to find a way to maneuver
Figure it out.
and cross. Yes, figure it out on your own.
It's complete chaos.
That's
Audrey,
the
thank
first
you.
road. The second
road.
Yes, the second road is Kisi Nyeri Highway. It's a barrier, the one that goes all the way to the border.
Right.
That is Z. There are portions of the road that are not yet complete. They have been left that way. You can clearly see there is no more construction work going on,
Yep.
but the road is not complete.
Yep.
Also, the road has no marking. It has not been clearly marked. And since the road was done, we have lost a lot of people on the road. Like from the village, we have lost a close relative because of accidents thrown on the road. And this one as well, nowhere to cross.
Same issues. Thank you, Audrey. You've gotten into a very noisy place, but we get your point now. Mulemi in Kisumu. Hello, Mulemi.
I can hear you guys. Morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I love what you guys do every morning. I'm a silent listener.
Asante sana.
Yeah, now we have a stretch in Kisumu between Migosi Junction and Lake Basin Mall. It's been like that forever.
How many years?
In fact, I can't count. Because I suspect it was under Nusumkate. So you'd imagine from Nusumkate to now.
Wow.
Yes, and interestingly, when we had a free cities, that part was hurriedly done. Then we used the overpass for some time. Then it was closed again. So the most unfortunate scenario actually is being vandalized.
Wow.
Because they were supposed to do the barriers, then they do the service lane. So unfortunately, they closed the road. Now we are supposed to use the undone service part that is really bad. And now what was to be done, in fact, they had laid some roads for them to do the concrete barrier. They're being vandalized every day. So we wonder what needs to happen for that piece to be done. Because if I had the might, sometimes I feel like I'm so, I don't know,
powerless.
I would have removed the barriers. Because we used it during our cities and we could cross the other side. Because actually they turned where? It's a very small stretch. That's the same place when the railway derailed. That place was all cut off. Yet the upper part could be used. So I don't know what needs to happen for that part to be done.
We hear you, Milemi. The message is home. Thank you very much. Thomas.
Good morning.
Good morning, Thomas.
Mine is just, I'm wondering, how come I've never had like the government taking the contractors to court because of one, delay of works, two, shoddy work done, because the due diligence being done by the issuing authority, whoever is giving out the contract. They go through a due process where people bid, and in some funny way, I think the highest bid always wins here in Kenya.
Not the lowest.
I think that's the way of doing business. Anyway, nobody is ever held accountable on the kind of standard of work they're doing. Because, for example, if they're building the road, I assume in the contract they should also include the drainage, the shoulder works. Literally, they just do it mpaka hapa kando kidogo tu, alafu anaacha unaona yote ni mchanga.
They move on.
Yeah, they just move on. They don't consider other road users. If they're just building the road is just for the cars only. Other people not considered.
Thomas, we hear you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Asante. Simon in Kisumu.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I have a concern of a road between Katito and Awasi. On the map, that road had been tarmacked during the Moi era between Kindu Bay, Katito, Awasi, Chebelit, and then to Nandi Hills. But this stretch between Katito and Awasi has never been done up to date. I'm sure City, you can concur with me on that.
Yes, in fact, I'm actually picturing the road even as you speak.
Yeah, because I remember when the bridge collapsed at Rai, people were diverted to this road, but then nobody could make out to travel because most of the vehicles got stuck, because that would have been the alternative route after the bridge had collapsed. So people are now using Awasi, Kapsoit, and then Sondu in case when there's a problem. But then now this little stretch of around 17 kilometers has not been done to date. But despite on the map, it has been marked, it has been tarmacked by Kera.
This is madness. Simon.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we hear you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peter in Ruiru.
Hello, good morning, everybody.
Good morning,
Peter.
Welcome to the Rant and Rave.
Yeah, it's been a while. I'm always listening to you guys. Thank you. Now, I have two concerns. There is a stretch of road here on Pacifica extension of the highway between the underground called the passageway at Pangani and where it connects with the Uhuru Highway. The street lights went off. I think there used to be solar street lights.
Which side is this? Is this using the Wangari Maathai Road or Muranga Road through Ngara?
Wangari Maathai stretch, yes.
Okay.
Yes, Wangari Maathai stretch. Yeah, the street lights went off. That stretch normally has Mkokoteni pushers who are coming from the Forest Road, Limuru Road Market at night. So you can imagine speeding down from the other direction.
Yep.
And you can't see them because the street lights are not there. Kenya has never bothered to replace those street lights. It's a very small stretch. The second concern is about how Kura handles its project. And a typical example is just here at Uphill. Second Gong Avenue and third Gong Avenue. These two roads had a contract which, if you go there, you'll find that they've only done halfway. Yeah, and ironically, third Gong Avenue is the headquarters of NTSA.
Yeah.
Yet another road authority building. So the road is supposed to be single carriage, but it goes up to a point where it goes into a single carriage. Meaning, if you remember how the colonial roads were in the city, they used to only cater for the few citizens who are there. Yes. So you have to be so careful, especially when you're passing school buses. Statues. It's a very small stretch, but somehow the road was never completed. Nobody talks about that.
How long are we talking about?
Those roads were done in 2020, and it was about 7 months works. Then the contractor left the site. We thought maybe they will come back. They have never come back. So I hear all the concerns you have, but it is a general malaise in these road bodies.
It just stretches across all of them.
It stretches across the entire country, really. You can't really pick one place. Wayaki Way, yes, it's a major concern, but
everywhere you go, there is something wrong.
We hear you, Peter.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's have the other Peter in Nairobi. Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you very much. Mine is a process concern. You see, before any infrastructure project or road is constructed, there should be a cost-benefit analysis or a return on that particular investment where you have the economic and social feasibility that is done on the road, in which case you're able to know where people cross, the time people take. But what happens is we are just concerned with it. You know, we have a traffic count, the number of vehicles that pass, and then that's it. I know Kenya Roads Board, but this is at the audit process.
Yep.
They introduce what they call the value for money audit, where they look at the economic and social feasibility on road projects around the country. But the problem is we don't have a baseline to know the initial situation, in which case we're able to know what happens after and how the road should be designed in a way that it addresses the needs for everyone, from all the road users, those who are using those who walk, the vehicles and so on. And I think that's a problem with the current setting on how roads are constructed. And until that is done, we will still be complaining and doing the same things. Perhaps the next time you have someone, a representative from any of the road agencies, you should put them to task whether they have a cost-benefit analysis before they have any infrastructure, any road project or not.
That's a good question.
My experience is that they don't, and I think we need to address that.
That's a good question. We'll be looking for them. Like we said, we had extended an invitation to the Kenha Director General, but he's in Mombasa attending the forum by the Institution of Engineers of Kenya. We'll be looking for him, including also the bosses at Kenya Roads Board, because they've got to answer to very many of these questions. Geshoro in Mombasa, good morning. No, Geshoro along Mombasa Road. Yeah, along Mombasa Road.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Yes.
Switch off your radio TV, please.
Yes. I'm talking from Akiba Mombasa Road.
Okay.
We have this road which connects Rikoni Ring Road all the way to a club called Nerku.
Mm-hmm.
That place, the road was never finished over 10 years now. We demonstrated and the road was partially finished.
Yep.
Then they did erect some writing, which has, up to today, nothing has happened. Now we are going to the festive season. Thieves have started already stealing from passers-by during the day, during the night. We have taken our report to Industrial Police Station.
Yep.
But so far, the security is becoming very bad because the lights are not on and the road is not finished. And there's a church, there's a school, there are 4 estates and 1 shopping mall called Quickmart. So, my dear, I do not understand where we are because this is over 10 years now.
Those are questions that we are taking, and when we get the responsible authorities in the studio, we'll have specific questions to ask them. Thank you very much, Gishoro.
Welcome, most welcome.
John in Nairobi West.
Morning.
Good morning.
I'm an engineer. I've practiced for a while, about 8 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you the problem with the Kenyan roads is not the engineers. The designs are usually done perfectly, marvelous. Most of these guys, even some of them are studied abroad. The problem usually comes when Kenya procures the contractors. As a contractor, you have to bribe highly. So let's say you're building a road that costs 5 billion.
Yes.
Your profits, maybe you expected 500 million.
Yes.
You have to give that 500 million bribe to Kenya. So when you're building the road, how do you make your money?
By cutting.
You now have to take short. Yes. And then the supervisory body that's supposed to make sure you don't cut corners have been compromised already.
Which body is this?
Kenha.
Okay.
This is Kenha. They're supposed to come and supervise and make sure you're doing a job well as a contractor as per the design.
John, usually, what's the profession of the person supervising such a project?
From Kenya or otherwise?
He's an engineer.
Okay.
Okay. So, and he's been procured by Kenha. He's a supervisor. The resident engineer usually supervises work done by the contractor. Okay, so the contractor, if there were supposed to be 10-foot bridges, I'll build 2 or 3. And the guy who's supposed to tell me this is wrong already took money.
So when you say it's not the engineers to blame, which engineer specifically are you talking about?
So the design engineers do their jobs properly.
Okay.
They do their jobs properly. So it's up to the contractor. The contractor usually has an engineer who makes sure the design is implemented.
Yep.
And then there's an engineer from Kenya who does the supervision.
Yeah.
So now, if the Kenya people have been compromised, then what job are they supervising?
Okay.
So that's usually the major problem on our roads.
So this whole thing is just leading, it heads back into impunity because of corruption somewhere.
Yes. And then you see some of these roads that are not finished because the payments are usually done in stages. You find that you do a certain section of the road, then Kenya pays you as a contractor. They approve your payment.
Yes.
So it's usually done step by step by step. So you find you've done 80% of the road. The remaining 20%, you haven't been paid for a whole year. You had a contractor. You have employees to pay, guys on your payroll. You have equipment on site. You're basically bleeding money, and the government isn't paying. So you leave site and then you wait for payment. That's why some of these roads haven't been finished for years.
So we can attribute the non-completion, like all these people who've been calling for the last 2 hours, who complain about unfinished roads they said they were going to start some odd years ago. We can actually attribute this to non-payment of contractors, and so they leave the work unfinished.
Yes, absolutely.
Wow.
Thank you, John.
All right.
Let's hear from Dennis in Nairobi as well. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us.
How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Asante sana. You're having a great conversation today. 2 things I'd like to say. Number one, the great John Maxwell said everything rises and falls on leadership. The quality of leaders we have in the engineering, Ministry of Roads, and even now building is one thing. Not because they don't know what to do, it's because they don't supervise very well what needs to be done. If we are able to get that with regard to leadership, we will be moving forward. The second thing I'd like to say, listening to the conversation this morning, I realize that we are validating. I'm not happy what CS Kuria said, Moses Kuria said the other day about Kenyans dying and therefore he wants to bring in GMOs. But listening to us this morning, we are almost confirming that what he said
there are 1,000 ways to die in Kenya.
Many ways true. Yes. And a lot of it now is happening. It's only that GMOs will die slowly, but on the roads and buildings, it's instant death. And we are just confirming that, one of the ways that Kenyans die is roads and buildings. And we are, I don't want to say helpless, but we are a far away from getting to the right track.
Yep.
Yes, and it will start with the leadership. Employing a normal civil servant to go and supervise 20, 30 billion job.
Yeah.
I mean, that there's a problem there. I'm not saying that we don't employ them. I'm just saying we need to look at
what we're doing. That's true.
Yes.
Thank
because
you,
he will go there and he'll be told 3, 4, and he will give it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, actually, what Dennis is saying, it goes back into if you have taken 30 minutes for somebody to appear before a panel of 3 people, and those 3 people have determined that this person is good enough to be the principal secretary for infrastructure or roads and transport, and that person will go and sign off the amount of money that will go to the Kenya Roads Board, which will then sign off the money that goes to the Kura, Kera, Kenha.
Who in turn sign off the money that should go
to the contractor. Shida ilianza kitambo
sana. And to start to unravel that thing. Sheesh.
Thank you for all the rants and raves. Over 4,000 people have been killed in road accidents this year alone. And this is according to a report by the National Transport and Safety Authority. Roads are a major killer in this country. We've got to do something about it. Good morning. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Nixo. I'm Dennis Aseto. National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula has appealed for patience as Parliament readies to receive the findings of the competency-based curriculum report to be tabled this week. Speaking in Bungoma, the Speaker assured that legislators will be keen to scrutinize the crucial document that will decide the fate of the new education system, even as CBC per year class sits for the Kenya Primary School Education Assessment next week. That is Monday, November 30th. Wetangula also urged Kenyans to support examination candidates for optimal performance. A 42-member task force appointed by President William Ruto to evaluate the new education model concluded public participation forums countrywide on November 11th and will be tabling the much-awaited report in Parliament this week. A Meru MCA has presented a petition before the Meru County Assembly seeking to have Governor Kawira Mwangaza impeached. Abogeta West MCA Dennis Kiogora, who also doubles as the minority chief, we proposed the motion to oust Mwangaza on grounds that she has breached the Leadership and Integrity Action of Section 10 of the Constitution. Kiogora has accused Governor Mwangaza of gross misconduct and abuse of office, saying she has engaged in a number of discreditable acts which he claims have created a toxic environment and invited ridicule to the county. Kiogora proposed that Governor Mwangaza cannot be trusted to work harmoniously with staff and elected leaders at the national and county level of government. And a multi-agency team in West Pokot has so far recovered 40 rifles and 200 ammunition through the peaceful disarmament exercise in the county since June 2022. The latest recovery of an AK-47 rifle with a loaded magazine was surrendered to officers on patrol after the public offered information on the same. In an effort to enhance security in the country, the National Police Service has continually championed for community police partnerships to create a safe and secure environment for all. These has proved fruitful as members of the public share information with police officers, which has led to the arrest of criminals and the recovery of illegal firearms. Now, the owner of a building that collapsed in Ruaga last week, killing 2 people, was arrested while attempting to flee the country. The DCI said the detectives based at the region's main international getaway pounced on the suspect Jennifer Kamau minutes before she boarded a flight destined for Texas in the USA. 2 people lost their lives after the building belonging to the woman collapsed on an adjacent building while tenants were asleep at around 3 a.m. Elsewhere, the owner of a 5-story building that collapsed in Ruiru Town, Stephen Ngaruia, is in custody. The building that had been housing more than 100 tenants in the town collapsed hours after they had been evacuated. And over 200 phones were recovered from a theft syndicate during an operation by DCI detectives from Kasarani police station. The sting operation yielded the arrest of Anthony Orlando, alias Engineer Bobby, who led the police to the hideout where stolen phones were hidden. The operation is part of enhanced security operation and patrols instituted to deal with increased cases of mugging and robbery witnessed in Nairobi in the last few months. Police say the breakthrough could lead to arrest of more suspects believed to be behind the syndicate. And Lamu is set to hold its 20th annual cultural festival beginning from November 24th this year. The festival one of the world's most famous cultural festivities to be held at the UNESCO World Heritage City, is expected to attract both domestic and foreign tourists. Lamu Governor Issa Timami said his administration is devoted to promoting peace and coexistence through enhancing the Lamu cultural industry and highlighting the rich cultural heritage of Lamu citizens to the entire nation and the world. In keeping with this year's theme of a melting pot of diversity and multiculturalism, Governor Timami noted that the festival presents a perfect opportunity for Kenyans and visitors alike to celebrate the diversity of our cultures and how they complement one another. The Lamu County boss noted that the festival will benefit the local economy both directly and indirectly, as he praised all participants for their contribution to the event's success. Now, Ugandan authorities have banned prison staff from using mobile phones during the World Cup, warning inmates might exploit the excitement surrounding the football tournament to escape. Frank Mayanja, spokesperson of the Commissioner General of Prisons, said commencement of the World Cup football tournament on 20th and its excitement may result into prisoners' escape, and that staff must not report for duty with phones, for they distract attention and interfere with the level of alertness. He further ordered that security be raised in areas where prisoners may be watching football. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Azeta. Good morning.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, today's not been too bad a day in terms of traffic. We're looking at it dwindling coming off of Thika Superhighway and then getting into the city. We should be all right as you're getting towards that Murang'a Road and then well into Globe Cinema at the roundabouts. All right, coming off of Jogo Road hasn't been too much of an issue. At least past 9 o'clock. It started off earlier and it's still continuing a little bit here and there. More or less over on the Thika Superhighway, and we're looking at traffic that still continues coming off of Kiambu Road this morning, still heavy, and it's looking at bumper to bumper through towards Muthaiga Square. Okay, coming out of Westlands continues to be an issue, and we're looking at it heavy, then getting into the CBD. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, talk to us there, and let's try keep things moving this morning.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latin, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Good morning and welcome to the final hour of The Situation Room this morning. It's Tuesday, the 22nd of November. 2022. We want to have a conversation now about food safety versus food security. Are those two the same?
Are they interchangeable?
Are they interchangeable? Is there a difference? Well, keep it here for that. But first, C.T. Muga has the day's proverb.
I do. From the country of Western Sahara.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Read as usual from my
Samsung Galaxy Tab S8 Ultra 14.6 inch screen, 3-day battery life.
Said he can give you a discount.
What else?
Affordable.
Yeah, AMOLED screen. You can use a pen and scribble on it, and it becomes words.
Yes.
And letters becomes you what, and you can even.
Is he Ghanaian? Muga, please tell us. Are you Ghanaian?
I will tell you this after I've read the proverb.
Okay, we're
from
waiting.
My Samsung tablet Galaxy. After.
Can you guess where he is from now?
Old ways and new friends ought not to be disbanded.
Old ways and new friends ought not to be disbanded.
Yes.
Nice one. Okay. Let's welcome our guest. We have a guest in the studio. Anne Maina is the National Coordinator at the Biodiversity and Biosafety Association of Kenya. Good morning, Anne.
Morning. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Welcome
Nice
to
to be
Kenya's
here.
biggest conversation.
Thank you.
Welcome to the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Thank
Before
you.
we go into the whole thing of why you're here, the Biodiversity and Biosafety Association of Kenya. What is it about?
Thank you very much. The Biodiversity and Biosafety Association of Kenya is a network of 60 member organizations working in 28 counties in Kenya. They include faith-based organizations, community-based organizations, CBOs, NGOs, all with the aim of keeping Kenyans aware and alert about many of the issues. We talk mostly about biodiversity and biosafety issues. We have been very loud in the GMO issue. We say no to GMO. Before we were registered, we used to be called the Kenya Biodiversity Coalition, which was a loose coalition. Then we decided, let's get registered and get ourselves talking. We have been in existence from as far back as 2004, where we have been raising concerns about a lot of the false solutions being pushed, like GMOs, biofuels, and others.
So you're also against biofuels?
Yes, if you remember some few years back, there was a big push to have biofuels such as canola, and what was it called? Canola, and even turning maize into a biofuel. And we raised a lot of concerns because the people in the drier parts of the country were being told you can grow this castor in the drier parts of the country, it will do well, but it really needs a lot of water. Then for maize is a food security crop. There's no way we can make it a biofuel. But I think even the issue died naturally because when they tried it, it never worked out.
So people were just not able to produce it to some commercial level.
Yes, especially in the drier parts. Because the time there, it was like the Ukambani region, which is dry.
Oh, yeah.
This
All these
is the new
about
cash
castor.
crop.
There was a different kind of a seed that was...
It was called, is it castor? I'm trying to remember. Even castor.
Yeah, there was
seed.
castor and there was another one.
Yes. And they were being told this is the new cash crop for Ukambani and the drier parts of the country. But they tried it, it never worked. It really needs a lot of water and nutrients to grow well.
So why are you against it?
Because there was a big push to stop growing of the, if you grow the maize, use it as a biofuel, but also the effects on the environment was going to be almost like what you see in the Baringo part of the country with the matenge. You remember the matenge?
Yes.
Yes, that was going to be an effect in that region. And so we questioned that a lot.
Okay. What's the general understanding of what GMO is? Genetically modified organisms. What is the general understanding? Yesterday we read a very interesting article about how, the chicken that we're going to be eating for Christmas can be grown in a lab. The flesh of the meat. So what's the understanding of what GMO is? People have been up in arms. It causes cancer. It causes all sorts of things. Why should we grow food? Why should we eat food rather that has not grown naturally, organically? What is it?
Let me start off with biotechnology. You'll hear people confusing biotechnology and genetic engineering. Biotechnology has been in existence from as far back as when our parents or grandparents were there. When you brew Muratina, you're using a form of biotechnology. When you bake bread, is biotechnology. The controversial bit, and one branch of it, is the genetic engineering. And in genetic engineering, you're crossing the species barrier. So like one of the first products that was genetically engineered was scientists wanted to see how they can grow tomatoes in the wet or colder parts of the country. So it was crossed with a fish gene so that it can grow, but it never really worked out. So let's give an example. There are 4 major crops that are genetically engineered and commercialized all over the world. You have maize, you have cotton, you have soya, and you have canola. Mostly for oil. With the maize, we have the BT maize. You can have it as insect resistant, and that's the BT. The variety that wants to be introduced in Kenya is called MON 810. You can also have it as herbicide tolerant. It's not yet in Kenya, but this is the type where you use lots of glyphosate, or commercially known as Roundup, to grow the crop. So some people say it's a way of also conserving the environment because you just spray, kill the weeds, and you keep your maize growing. And then you can have a drought tolerant. That is a type that also being tested in Kenya. It used to be called water efficient maize for Africa. Now we have Teller maize. And then you can have stacked genes, which have insect resistance, Roundup Ready, herbicide tolerant, drought resistance. Even you can have virus resistant. That's like for the cassava.
Okay.
So in Kenya right now, we have BT cotton with the farmers.
Yep.
Maize is, yesterday we were talking with someone from the National Biosafety Authority. They say maize in the next season, they are bringing it to the market. And then GMO cassava also, to deal with the cassava brown streaked and cassava mosaic disease. And Kenya is one of the first countries that is moving towards commercialization of GMO cassava. No other country the world over has commercialized that. Yes, those are the main products. If you go to the website of the National Biosafety Authority, they also had an application for a GMO flour called Gypsophila, but they rejected that on some socioeconomic concerns. But it was mostly for export.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is wrong with those things?
GMOs, as I said, it crosses the species barrier. And so, naturally, male and female mate, whether animals or plants, and you produce an offspring. Now, with genetic engineering, you're going to the lab, whether you're using the genetic gun, or different ways, you're crossing that species barrier. And questions have been raised about the interplay of the genes in there after doing that in the laboratory.
What is crossing the species barrier? What does that mean?
Where naturally it's male-female cross, you get an offspring. But when you cross the species barrier, you're crossing a gene from
male.
No, not necessarily. If it's maize plus BT cotton with the Bacillus thuringiensis, BT, which is found in the soil. If it's cassava, they are crossing it with a different. It normally does not happen. Like let me give an example. Simple example.
Today, there is maize. People are planting maize. All right. So
today, naturally, you plant your maize. So they are male and female, and they cross. There's cross pollination, and you get your maize.
The bees and the birds do their thing.
Yes.
And
get maize.
Even the air helps.
And the
There's
cross-pollination.
And you get your.
And you get your maize.
But with the GMO, that does not happen. It's already done in the laboratory.
Okay.
You understand?
Using a different thing?
Yeah, you can use a gene gun. You can use several things they use in the laboratory.
So instead of using a bird, they use a gene gun.
Yes, they use a gene gun to do that. So you're producing a product that's not naturally occurring.
But it's the same thing.
But you've only used a gun instead of a bird.
A bird.
No,
Instead
it's
of
not.
wind,
It's not an easy gun. It is something more complicated. You even hear of gene scissors. It's not like the scissors you hear you're cutting.
But the thing that you're taking from that side to this side is the same thing that the wind would have taken from that side to this side.
But you have crossed the species barrier. It's not that it does not happen naturally that BT from the soil it crosses with the maize and produces a product.
What is BT?
Bacillus thuringiensis.
What
I'm
is
just
that?
giving the example of BT maize. There's a gene that's picked from the soil, Bacillus thuringiensis. Scientists have done a research and seen this has a toxin that repels the
Insects.
the insect, the
Okay.
stalk borer.
Okay.
You put it in the maize so that it can fight the stalk borer. One of the challenges that has been seen, for example, in South Africa, for the particular variety they want to introduce in Kenya, is that apart from the stalk borer, there have been other super pests that have come up. And now, unlike previously where the scientists would say that you don't have to spray as much with the GMO, they're being forced to spray more because of the other pests that have come in, because the science is not very precise.
Okay.
Yes.
Wait, so this thing is interesting. So you're saying that these pests who have come fortified, because that's what happens, they've interacted with whatever they started off with, and so they more or less develop resistance to whatever pesticides you had. So you now have to produce new pesticides.
So like these COVID variants.
Yeah, meaning there's no end to this cycle. But part of the reason why science goes into looking into these things is because what probably existed naturally stops working naturally.
Not really. You see, with maize, let's give an example of the local varieties. If it's Katumani, the major challenge, one of the questions that we ask about the environmental impact is that the smallholder farmer in Kenya has 1 or 2 acres. If you go to the large farms, for example, in the US, in Canada, maybe in South Africa, the rule is you have to leave a refuge about 5 meters around your farm and grow your maize, if it's GMO maize, there, so that you avoid cross-pollination to maybe I'm the next farmer and I'm growing organic. But that did not really work out.
Is that really feasible? Is that really
in Kenya,
possible?
it can't with our smallholder farmers. And so we're going to lose our local varieties. And that's why we raise questions about biodiversity. Because if you look at even the issue of climate change, the farmer grows different varieties to be able to see if they can withstand the challenges of climate change. Let me give an example of the hybrids. The hybrids that we have currently, and GMO is a form of a hybrid, but not all hybrids are GMO. But all GMOs are hybrids, because they want to get the best out of them. So the hybrids are not very resilient to the challenges with climate change. But if you look at the other local varieties, for example, the Katumani or others that we find, we're even supporting a lot of our communities to revive them. They are more resilient to some of these challenges of climate change. And climate change has become a big issue. Right now we're having rains in November. We planted in October waiting for rains. The rains have come in November. We're not sure if they're going to be sufficient. And so you want to bring GMOs, which is heavily reliant on toxic pesticides, herbicides, and all that, on fertilizers, and on water. Water is an important aspect. How are we going to manage that? Then the questions that we have raised about issues of the health concerns that have been raised. Some scientists, mostly from Europe, have raised concerns about the safety of these genetically engineered crops. Particularly, the most controversial one has been Gilles Seralini from France. He did his research and did a 2-year study on rats and that's their lifespan, and fed them on pure GMO maize and soya even. And these rats developed tumors, and that raised a lot of concern. The controversy with the Seralini report is that the first journal he published with there were interests from multinational corporations, and this is big trade for them. So they put pressure, and this paper was withdrawn. He repeated his research and published in another journal, and it remains one of the controversial, or one of the studies that have been done. Maybe I give another example of Aspad Pushta. He's a researcher that was in an institute in the UK. He also did a research on GM potatoes that were being developed, trying to establish some safety analysis, but also when they were fed on rats, they developed precancerous cells. And that what did they do to Pushtai? His research team was disbanded. He's lost his job with the university, and you can see them a lot of interest, and that's why we keep on asking, what are the interests here? It's about corporate capture. It's about interest, about profit.
Anne, we've jumped the gun somewhere because
we were learning. We were at the point of learning, and then we've gone somewhere else.
Yes, because now when we start talking about multinationals, yes, multinationals are at the forefront of this. Yes, that is also very true. But the research we speak of, before the research teams were disbanded, the peer review mechanisms, the number of maybe multi-site research projects that deal with the same thing, corroborating these findings, do they exist? Because, yes, at the animal, the stage where you are testing these GMOs on animals, that is what was found. But is that all that was found? What was it that they found that they could argue brought about this cancerous growth in these rats? And when I talk about peer review, and I talk about the comparative research, other research projects on the same subject in other places.
What have they found?
Yes, and what about, when you talk about the GMO, what specific GMO were we speaking about? And what exactly were these rats being fed on? The reason why I ask these questions is because literature on GMO and research, many of them are inconclusive. Certain things are pointed out to, the possibility of harm. But the question that is always lingering, what about human beings and their response to it? It lingers.
Yes.
And when that question is asked, would you say that there's anything conclusive that research has found that they could say, yes, when it comes to human beings, this is what will happen?
And that's one of the biggest controversies that we've always raised. In 2012, when the ban was put in place, already the Seralini research was out. And one of the questions we've asked our local researchers in Kenya, yesterday we had a big webinar with the Kenyatta University, and we're asking, so Seralini, the ban was there for 10 years. Why haven't we done? The product is MON 810 and NK 603. And it's what wants to be introduced in Kenya, MON 810. Why haven't you done local research with feeding them, or even clinical studies to give us the effect? If you look at BT maize in the US, is mostly grown for animal feed. Maybe let's say in South Africa, they're eating the pap and the sadza, the ugali there. And you can see a lot of the non-communicable disease challenges that we are seeing there. But in these countries, and in particular the US, it's animal feed. And this is what we want to bring into the country. 10 million duty-free bags.
Why is it on animal feed and not humans?
Because it's not
in
their
America.
staple. In the US, it's not their staple. It's wheat.
Okay.
Even in Europe.
But they eat the meat.
They eat the meat. Also, they eat a bit of maize and cornflakes, things like that.
So is there an effect
on the human livelihoods?
On the human livelihoods from those in America that have actually taken the BT maize?
The research, as Muga says, is inconclusive. But also, not many researchers are doing it because the funds are also not there. He who's controlling the research is the big multinationals or the so-called philanthropists who own shares in the multinationals.
Okay. Apart from because I see where the fear is. There's some unknown in that room in there, and so before we approach that room, let's guard ourselves. But then there's this other room where you've said BT, for example, you told us it's this toxin from the soil that then is introduced into the maize, and it's supposed to help it become water resistant, pest resistant. And then you say, then after we develop it, we still have to use a lot of pesticides. Why? And it's
because of the super pests that
because of the new super pests that have developed.
That are coming in.
Okay. The other non-GMO variety, do you still need to use pesticides to control the pests?
Yeah, some farmers still use
So
it.
same. So with GMO, with non-GMO, you'll still use pesticides.
But now we have biopesticides and biofertilizers, which we are working on.
But no, in the market.
In the market. They're also in the market.
Sawa.
Yes.
Commercially in the market to a greater extent. What are people using?
Yes, it's a
pesticides?
synthetic. Yes, it's a pesticide.
Synthetic pesticide. Yes. And this will also be synthetic pesticide. Which one is going to use more? The GMO one?
GMO.
The GMO is going to use more pesticide.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
In America, where they're using this BT, and then they grow the corn, they feed the corn on the animals, there are people who still consume corn.
Yes, the Mexicans love it.
It's. Have we seen any anecdotal impact on humans?
Maybe let me speak in South Africa. So maize is their staple.
Yes.
And South Africa, I think 1998 started growing the GMO maize. I haven't seen much research on it, but some scientists have questioned the increasing cases of especially non-communicable diseases, the diabetes, the hypertension. Already you can say even in Kenya is facing that challenge, but the problem is going to be bigger. There have also been some linkages to issues of cancer. But like I said, many of the independent even researchers in Europe face a lot of sidelining and stigmatization because they are going against the grain, and the grain is controlled by the big multinationals.
So what I'm hearing you say is that the voice for GMO is much stronger than the voice against GMO.
And well-resourced. Yes.
Why aren't we getting more people resourcing the voice against GMO?
I don't know. That's a question.
In the world, when it comes to research, there's always counterbalance. If the voice against GMO is so strong, like we are seeing, there's a National Biosafety and Biodiversity Association, and you're not the only ones in the region, in the world. You're so many. why isn't that you're unable to raise resources to actually conduct a conclusive trial and conduct it in several places?
It's something that we are doing, but it's not very big, because you see, like, maybe let me just give an example of how the system is so much closed or entrenched. If you look at, there's been a lot of controversy about the seed laws in Kenya. You remember the issue about farmers can be jailed for having a technology that belongs to
somebody.
It's all linked. They're all linked from a distance, because the reason why our laws were changed is because the money that was used to change these laws is coming from the same multinationals, from industry. So you change the seed law, you finance, because unfortunately our government is not giving enough money to even local research. They're paying for PhD students, they're paying for master students, they're changing the laws, the agriculture laws, they're supporting so many ways. So it's very difficult for me or someone who has a PhD paid for by a certain company to speak against it. And
even if you know the counter to be true?
It's very difficult. We have friends in there who tell me...
Even if you know the counter to be true?
But also, Anne...
you see, because that's the thing. Because if you know... and I think that's the question. If you're convicted by the findings of the research, because this is science here, science will show you something clear. It will not be a maybe if. You'll have your proof, you'll have your trace, you will know this is what the situation is. So that fuels your conviction. Now, if you see something to be true and you know that it could be of potential danger to people, the thought of you remaining silent because your bill has been paid by somebody to study is really scary.
It's scary, but it happens. We have friends in there who will give you the information but tell you, no, and I can't speak against this.
Because I'm
paid by
my
money is paid. Yeah. I was sponsored, but I'm also employed to do this. This is what he's paying for my living, and it's good money. We are living in a desperate time. People want to protect their jobs.
What you say represents a certain truth, but in my mind, it isn't the entire truth. And I'll tell you why I'm saying this. Yes, big pharma, big this, big... They are always claims that they do not wish to have big tobacco, anything that works against their interest. Class action suits around the world are a testimony to this. Okay? However, if indeed beyond the research that ended up with the animal testing at that phase of the research, in the absence of direct evidence of the harm, because we're talking harm here, that this will directly cause on human beings, our discussion and argument somehow will run out of steam, because there has to be evidence.
But you need precaution. Let's have precaution for doubt.
I'm not arguing about that. I am simply saying that in the absence of the evidence, because somewhere along the line, even people who are not related to big pharma or big food producers, if there's a prevalence of ailments in a particular region, let's say, for instance, we in Kenya right now are having serious issues with non-communicable diseases, and the regions of the country where we see a higher prevalence. Just like we saw a higher prevalence of HIV in certain parts of the country. So researchers in this field will go and ask that question, because that's what research does. It seeks to find a response to a question that is bothering people. Why is this happening? Okay? Now, we have not been a country that has been dominated, or there's been a high existence of GMO foods, at least not that I know of. And yet, we have a problem with non-communicable diseases. Now, if GMO is introduced purely from a medical scientific perspective, one will be able to see whether there's a direct correspondence. Now, I'm not saying we wait until we see these things. I'm simply saying that when you argue for caution, there has to be more than just the argument for caution. Because
caution because.
Yes, there has to be a because. And there are those who argue about the benefits of GMO as well. And the argument also makes sense. The caution makes sense. But the substance that would make the caution more potent is what we often lack when we listen to this discussion.
And that's why we are saying the government should bring back a moratorium, even if it's 10 years, and fund local research. Researchers out there have done research, but not on humans. Mostly you hear there's a professor from Australia called Judy Kaman who fed pigs, and pigs have almost 90%. Their stomachs are almost similar to human beings.
Very similar.
Very similar.
It's amazing. We are like pigs.
So I didn't see you missing out on that.
So when they were fed on the GM, soya and maize, their stomachs had developed, inflammation. Inflammation is a sign of something. So there's a challenge because not much has been done on human testing. And if you look at, for example, medicine, those who do medicine, if they want to introduce a drug, it takes almost 8 years before they finally release that drug to the market. They do clinical trials and all that. But let me take you back to your proverb this morning.
You are listening, huh?
Old ways and new friends ought not to be disbanded. And by bringing genetically engineered crops into our market, and the fact that we have smallholder farmers, we run the risk of losing our biodiverse, our local varieties. And going back is going to be very difficult for our communities. And let's question ourselves, why is Europe and even the US running back to the organic foods? If you go to Europe and the US, those are expensive products. It's the poor who eat these genetically engineered crops because they understand there are questions on this product. We are better off feeding on our on organically grown crops because the fact that GMOs are linked to increased use of these toxic pesticides. We already have the challenge, like he said, of the NCDs, the non-communicable diseases, but they're going to go higher. With us running towards embracing GMOs, yet you can bring back, even if it's a 10-year moratorium, and fund local research. Because also our scientists are constrained. Government does not give them money.
Let's take a break. This conversation about GMO has been in this country for what now? 20 years? Right? Like properly. Since that time when the government was having this conversation, let's go back into 15 years.
15.
At the point when the National Biosafety Authority was being established and the conversations around it and the push and pull around it. So you'll tell us, since then, what has taken place, right, in this country up to this point. And then we can then hop on from there. It is 24 minutes to 10. Ann Minor is the National Coordinator at the Biodiversity and Biosafety Association of Kenya. We are talking about food safety versus food security. Is it worth sacrificing one for the other? Or can they both go together? Time for that break. We'll be back shortly. Good morning. This is what the CS for Trade said with regards to importation of GMO.
We have so many things that can kill us in this country. Being in this country, you are a candidate for death. And because there's so many things competing for death, there's nothing wrong with adding GMO to that list. That is why we have deliberately decided to allow GMOs into this country. And the second thing is, until we are satisfied that we have enough maize in this country, our staple food, tomorrow I am signing a gazette notice to allow for importation of up to 10 million bags of maize, duty-free, for the next 6 months until we achieve food security. Because that is our cardinal responsibility as government.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The adults in the room.
I've seen some marriages, relationships, cohabitings struggle because there was no independence of the relationship.
it needs a certain level of intelligence. You need to reach a place where you know yourself, and again, you're not feeding off society.
Whether it is matters of the heart, finances, or work that's weighing on your mind, worry not.
Tune in to Adults in the Room every Monday to Friday from 7 p.m. to 10 p.m.
The adults in the room will help you stay winning. Only on 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
The sun is peeking through those clouds in Nairobi at 20, highs of 24 and lows of 17. And we'll see light rain continuing in Nakuru at 17. Going to highs of 24 and lows of 13. Mostly cloudy conditions at 20 in Nyeri, highs of 22 and lows of 14, and 19 and cloudy in Eldoret, highs of 23 and lows of 14. We'll see highs of 31 in Mombasa, where it's currently 30 and raining, and we'll see highs of 31 as well in Malindi, where the rain is coming down at 29. 22 and rain showers in Kisumu, highs of 26, and we'll see highs of 26 as well, and mostly cloudy Kakamega at 22. 19 and raining in Kampala, highs of 26 and highs of 32 in Dar es Salaam, where it's raining as well as at 30. 19 and sunny conditions in Johannesburg, highs of 25 and lows of 14. And it's also raining at 26 in Lagos, highs of 32. 31 will be the high. And mostly sunny Kinshasa, currently at 25. Looking out into Beijing, going into early evening Tuesday, it's 11 degrees, highs of 12 and lows of 0. Rain showers now in Paris at 7, highs of 11 and lows of 6. And it's 6 degrees and clear in London, highs of 10 and lows of 5. Mostly clear conditions at 4 degrees in New York. Coming into Tuesday, we'll see highs of 10 and lows of -2.
Welcome to Spice FM, the best exclusive radio station bringing you the best mix of the best music ever.
Little spots of traffic remaining here and there as you get onto the entrance of the southern bypass. A little bit of traffic there. Jogo Road is just not letting up, man. All the way from at Manyanja Road Junction out towards Landis, which is heavy. So now I've gotten it. Beyond bumper to bumper is heavy bumper to bumper. So now we're looking at heavy bumper to bumper traffic on Landis Road going out towards Kamkunji. And then into the CBDs is quite something as well. Thika Superhighway, the star of traffic this week, hasn't been too bad. But we're looking at Kiambu Road, which on the other side, there's a devil and the angel. Now they've switched places this week. All right, guys, through the morning. Let us know what it looks like. SpiceFM KE on Twitter.
Spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
All right, 20 minutes to 10. The conversation continues with Ann Maina, the National Coordinator at the Biodiversity and Biosafety Association of Kenya. Ann, what is the difference, again, between GMO and hybrid seeds? You said all GMOs are hybrid, but not all hybrids are GMO.
Okay, GMOs, as I told you, crosses the species barrier. So when you cross maybe maize with a BT variety, which is found in the soil, those do not sexually cross to produce. Yeah? But hybrids,
a maize seed with soil.
What you do with hybrids, you cross two same species. Like you want a maize that's producing bigger cobs. So you cross one that is a bit, maybe you like it because of its height, and you cross one for its productivity, and you get a pure breed. You don't cross the species barrier. It's maize, beans, potato. But with GMO, it's potato and pig. Something like that. You're crossing. They do not naturally
you get
cross.
Pie. Shepherd's pie. My goodness.
Potato and pig.
Yes.
What's your association stand on hybrid seeds? Are you okay with hybrid?
We're okay with hybrids. Yes,
Why?
we're okay. Because hybrids do not cross the species barrier, and they are produced to increase productivity. The only thing that you find a bit negative about hybrids, unlike local varieties, farmer-managed seed systems, is that you cannot keep on growing a hybrid. You have to go to the shop every season. Because
so you plant once,
harvest.
You've got to go and buy.
Got and buy.
GMO?
GMO also like that. It's also a hybrid all GMOs are hybrids.
So essentially, if I plant a GMO maize seed, once I harvest, I can't
keep in store.
I can't keep in store what I've harvested for seed.
If you grow it will not produce. Even hybrid, you can grow it, but the productivity will not be as good as the first parent family, the first family.
But that also happens with the just ordinary maize. I mean, yes,
the traditional one.
Yeah, the reason why the hybrids now became what they were, because if you use the same maize from the same plant, from the same harvest over time, the productivity goes down. It doesn't go up really.
No, you have to apply some science and technology for the local varieties, and we are working with farmers and supporting them to have farmer managed seed systems. In fact, farmer community seed learning centers. They're not seed banks. Seed bank is illegal for a farmer. So it's a community seed learning facility. And we take them through a process to identify the right seed. Because even with hybrids, there are farmers who are trained by the companies to produce for them seed. So like, let me give an example. In my small kashamba, if I want to identify the right seed, the first that sprouts, if it's maize, I mark
that is the one.
No, I'll mark it.
Okay.
Maybe with a red string. Then the first that tassels, I mark again. The one which has the biggest cob, I mark again. The one that has three, I mark that
produces
as
three cobs.
No. The one that has 3 strings, I've marked 3 strings from germination to tasseling
if
to
one
the cob.
has
That one is the best variety for me.
Okay.
And even when I shell it, I do not hit it with a stick the way we do when you have a lot.
It's the best child.
I take care of
Treat
it.
this child better
and
than
I
the
choose
others.
it and I keep it well. Right. And that's something that we are reviving, that system in the villages. It's very common among
for you
the
to
older
identify
ladies.
which one works
Identification and conservation. And there you can be able. But you see now, with the advent of hybrids and modernization, a lot of our communities have lost such kind of...
Yeah, you don't have time.
They don't have time, but you find especially the older women, if you want to do this, you start with the older women and bring the others on board. And that's how we are able to realize that. Even the other local varieties.
Yeah.
Let me give an example. There's a community in the Butula area in Busia County we have been working with and have supported the farmers even to revive a community seed bank. And one of the challenges in the early 2000s, this community faced the biggest challenge of HIV/AIDS. And the women came and said, for those that we're taking care of that are infected by HIV, they need to eat well. And we cannot afford by feeding them. We cannot manage feeding them sukuma wiki and cabbage. Let's bring back our local vegetables, kienyeji vegetables. And they started collecting those vegetables. And it grew. And they started even bringing back their millets and their sorghums. Now they have so much. The community there is producing seed. They are able to sell. What was very interesting is the other day, one of the community members told me, I supply millet and sorghum to the local secondary school, and they meal this for uji for their children.
Beautiful story.
Nutrition, very high, and they have been able to pick back on their seeds. We even took them, these farmers, as far back as 2017 to India, and India is the home of diversity. They have so much variety, and they learned there, and this has really spearheaded them, and they are really... very focused, and now they are very proud of their products.
So the idea here is that this community has gone back to the traditional varieties, the traditional foods.
Yes.
Not necessarily that the new current varieties, that they're producing them better.
No, but also the older varieties are more resilient.
All right.
You diversify for nutrition. And I found out that the interesting aspect that the local school does not cook uji for unga ya mahindi, they make it with millet and sorghum, which is nutritionally dense for the children. It's better.
It's better.
Yes, so the amounts, because one of the other challenges is that the amounts, because now, when you go to areas like Tharaka, the farmers say that you see the challenge with the millet and the sorghum. The children now go to school. It's not the olden days where they would stick there with the, what do you call it, and hit the birds.
Sling.
It's called a sling,
Yeah.
I almost used the Sheng word, then I decided to...
Sheng word is good. What's it called in Sheng?
Was it called fair? Yes, it's called fair.
No, fair is...
The other one you do like this.
The catapult.
You are in touch. What was the sling called? Eric should know it.
Me, I only know what it's called in my native language.
That
Tell
is the
us.
Sheng word.
Is that Sheng word?
That's the Sheng word.
Tell us.
Rujo rujo.
We have to confirm that.
Let me ask then the question, which just off of what you're saying, this particular community in Butula that decided, let's actually go organic and let's look at our traditional varieties and grow them, understanding how to grow them better. Question, a layman's question. How possible is it for a genetically engineered crop to physically influence genetics in another plant? So if a neighboring village took GMO and started planting GMO stuff, would it affect the crops in these Butula women's farms?
Okay, but it has to be the same species. So
See, I thought GMO
my
is
lady,
pigs, cows,
no. I'm growing GMO maize.
Okay.
My neighbor is growing organic. I have half an acre. He has 1 acre.
Yeah.
There's gene drift. It moves from this side. You see now, it doesn't cross from potato to maize. It's same species. And the main products in the market, maize, cotton, canola, soya. Yeah, cassava now has been introduced. But one of the issues that we've raised about this cassava, by just controlling and maintaining phytosanitary standards, you can be able to control the cassava brown streak and the cassava mosaic diseases. But you're running ahead to produce
We'll
a GMO.
come back into that.
Yeah.
So this one has kawaida maize. Let's even say the kawaida hybrid maize that's been allowed in the country for the last many years.
Yeah.
Then next year, in the next planting season, farmer X neighbor comes with GMO.
So
What's
I
gonna
plant
happen?
my kawaida maize, he's planting GMOs.
Yes.
The maize, there's no big space between us.
No,
See,
we are
the
neighbors.
shamba is very small.
In fact, we are brothers.
So it's crossing.
Yes.
There's cross-pollination. So my local organic variety or the local variety gets contaminated. Eventually, I will lose my local species because it when they cross, the male from there comes and crosses my female. There's a change there. And let me give an example. There was
And
a
what's the
farmer-
effect of that?
The effect that I will lose my local varieties and going back to them is very difficult. Let me give an example. There's a farmer in Canada who passed on about 2 years ago called Percy Smizer. He was growing conventional canola. Big farm. His neighbor was growing GMO canola. There was cross-pollination. One of the companies that was selling the GM canola came and tested his. And one of the controversial bits in our seed law is that there's a seed inspector, which has not been done yet. So they came and tested. And they found that because of cross-pollination, he had the GM variety in his farm. And he was sued millions of Canadian dollars because he was told, you are taking our
You have not
technology.
bought our-
You have not bought our technology and you have it in your farm. He was sued. He actually almost went bankrupt.
Unbeknownst to him that this had happened.
Yes, because of cross-pollination.
Right.
He
Can
had
it happen the other way around?
the other way around.
Yeah, from hybrid to GMO.
Or conventional to
Yeah,
GMO.
conventional to GMO. That you can actually go to this person who
But
has
you know, most of
GMO
the
and
organic
you
is
sue them.
actually free. It's proprietary free. Because one of the challenges is who owns the intellectual property.
But the thing is, it can affect either way.
It can affect either way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, currently, without GMO in the country, you have the conventional.
There's a conventional variety. There are those who
And
doing,
then there's a hybrid.
Yes.
So
The conventional is hybrid.
Is
Actually.
hybrid.
Yes, and you can have those who are practicing organic.
the organic.
Yeah.
So same scenario. Neighbor A, neighbor B. One with organic, the other one with hybrid. Can that effect happen?
Yes, it can also happen.
Okay.
Yes.
Have we seen any negative effect of that happening? Like, this one, because of you came with your hybrid, you've then affected my productivity, or because you've been an old person with your old seeds, you've affected my productivity on this side.
No, we have not seen any of that happening. Because,
Health-wise?
Health-wise, I cannot prove.
Okay.
I have not seen that research. But someone accusing the other one, you have accessed my technology without paying for it. No.
Not yet.
How did that story end?
He was sued. He almost went bankrupt, and then he was supported. Again, he appealed. Eventually, he won the case. But the impact, he was an old man in his 70s and had been growing his conventional variety for many years. Eventually, he won, but the effect was so much. He died like 2 years ago, this corona period. But that's one example of he who owns the seed can come to you and tell you, Eric, you seem to have my gene without paying for it. You have to pay for it. Can you imagine that happening in Kenya?
I can.
Can that be cured by changing the law?
Yes, we can change the seed law. In fact, one of our partners, Greenpeace Africa, has gone to court urging the government to revise the Seed Act, especially to remove those aspects of the seed law where farmers can be sued. But one of the things that we feel is very important also is the government to recognize farmers as breeders. Because currently in Kenya, a farmer is not considered a breeder. And that's why when I told you we have those community seed learning centers.
You can't call it a seed bank.
Yes, you can be sued for that. Who are you to save seed? It's a community seed learning center. So the government also needs to recognize these farmers. They have fed us for hundreds of years in Kenya. So why are you just linking the issue of having developing a seed and you know what happens? A lot of the university masters or PhD students, they go to the farmers, they are able to develop proper protocols and register their seed, and you lose control.
Okay. I mean, looking at this conversation, then what does that mean in terms of what, we're hearing? We know probably in a few days or so, this GMO, at least for the maize, is going to be here. What does that mean going forward? From your perspective and from what you've told us this morning, what does it mean then for consumerism in the country now? Consumption?
The GMO maize coming in duty-free is going to be cheaper. Our farmers in the...
And will people know what they're purchasing? Sorry?
No, it has to be labeled. You cannot tell GM just looking at it, this is GM, this is conventional. It's not possible. You have to do testing. We know the National Biosafety Authority has some labeling regulations. Unfortunately, the capacity is also limited. There could also be a possibility that it can get into the market without people realizing it's GM. Number two, it's going to be cheaper. Our farmers in the Rift Valley region are currently harvesting. The government has recognized that I was listening to the news this morning that farmers are holding about 20 million bags. And the government was urging them to release this maize. You can imagine when the GM maize gets in and it's cheaper, and the farmers, the cost of production was higher because fertilizer was more expensive. Where are they going to sell their maize? We have often argued as a network that also the issue of GMO, apart from the socioeconomic concerns, is about trade. And you can see that it took just less than a month that the government is saying, okay, we want to open up the market for duty-free GMO maize to come into the country. Previously, we asked for duty-free non-GMO maize. Why don't they consider that? Number two, let me give an example of Zambia, a few years back, over 10 years back, when they had Levi Mwanawasa as the president, and he was under a lot of pressure. The country was going through hunger, and he was under pressure from many of these countries, and they were asking him, are you going to let your people die because you're saying no to GMO? And he made a very Solomonic decision and said, my people will not die. What we will do, because my people might save some of this seed and say they are going to plant it, bring in that maize milled. Bring it milled.
Bring it as unga.
Kama unga. Yeah, because they were in a desperate situation. He's being told the maize that the high seas, the Zambians are dying. You're not being very realistic. And he said, bring the maize milled, so that my people don't plant that maize, and we have cross-pollination and the effect that it will have on the environment.
Did it come milled?
Yeah, it came milled.
So we should tell...
Oh, wow.
No, but
of course I'm going there.
But we want non-GM maize.
You don't want even milled. You don't want
No, I want it milled, but non-GM. Bring it non-GM. Unfortunately, it seems there are ships just lying on just outside our coast.
One has docked.
It has docked already. Yes, my friend was here and told you at Amba the other day in October that you wait, you will see, and it has come to pass.
Don't worry, it's not the only ship. We even have ships that have sugar, so it's not as though
mercury lead.
Yeah, I mean it's
they're waiting to dock, just waiting for courier to put a signature.
Yes.
When you say trade, you are spot on. But then, you see, the world we live in, where there's big everything, there are always business interests and business concerns. You see, alcohol, in my opinion, poses a much, much bigger problem than some of these things we talk about. And the health issues that alcohol brings about, maybe it's because we've researched on it for the longest time, is even greater than what we find with, say, what we call opioids. But yet, it is sold freely, people can buy it freely, people can drink it freely. What am I saying? I'm saying the discussion around GMOs, yes, it makes perfect sense. But just like the companies that deal in GMO have an interest, those who mitigate against it also have an interest. Now, is the interest that of the public, or is it just interest because this is the position they have taken and they have reasons why they've taken that position?
It's also for the public and our communities. I think if I ask you if you are given a choice to eat organic and GM, you will make
do they taste different?
They say organic is more tasty.
Then
you'll go for the tasty one. Because of the taste.
It's like ugali. Ugali, you're given, you take the red variety from your village, you mill it, you eat that ugali, is more nutritious, is more filling. And like the other one, which they say is sugar, like glucose. Let me not mention brands.
The very, very white one.
The white one.
Grade one, sifted, grade one. Anne, thank you very much for joining us. It's been an interesting conversation. Yep, and we'll invite you again.
Thank you.
Anne Maina is the National Coordinator at the Biodiversity and Biosafety Association of Kenya. And thank you for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation. It's a short 4 hours. We'll be back tomorrow morning. It's 10 a.m.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. The Director of Public Prosecutions, Nuruddin Haji, has been granted 21 days to review charges against 12 police bosses, including a commissioner linked to the death of Samantha Pendo, also known as Baby Pendo, in Kisumu in 2017. This is after Haji, through Alexander Muteti and Victor Witi, asked Justice George Kinya Kimondo to give him more time to interrogate afresh the file in the matter, and a constitutional petition filed before a separate court by the suspects prior to the commencement of a murder trial against the officers. Consequently, the case was deferred until January 30th, 2023, when the court will give directions on how the matter should proceed. And the owner of a 5-story building that collapsed in Raka Town, Kiambu County,